All right, good evening. Good evening to our live audience, and for those of you that will be watching this and viewing this by recorded webinar, I want to welcome you to this Make Money with No List featuring BitClub Network webinar, and I did it all in one breath. Hey, was that impressive or what? All right, ladies and gentlemen, listen, it's good to have each and every one of you on the webinar tonight. Some names that I don't know and some names that I've seen, but maybe it's been a while since I've seen them. And we do have people from all across the globe. Elmer, I know, here is representing his very large team in the Philippines. We've got Frank here, and gosh, Frank is already building a monstrous following. Thousands of folks that will be joining Frank and Foy's team there in Russia and all over Europe, Australia, Canada. It's amazing. And what we're going to do tonight is, Brad, we're going to bring you up to date, by the way. We're going to show you a system, a very powerful system that can pay you daily. How often daily? When daily? Even if you have little to no list. Now, obviously, if you've got a list, if you've got a large following like Louise up in Canada or Louise in Australia, or Robert is developing, or what have you, if you've got a large list and you've got a following, fantastic, okay? But even if you don't, we're going to show you how you can make money, Mary, every single day with little to no list. Now, listen, I'm aware that some of you have heard that message before, and I'm aware that some of you have been in systems where you were earning every day and it was wonderful when it lasted, and then something happened. So I want to spend a lot of time really talking about not just the income side, that's part of it, but I really want us to get an understanding of where we are as it relates to the industry excuse me, that we're embarking upon, because we're going to show you an industry that some experts, not me, 20 years of networking experience in terms of network marketing, multi-level, things of that nature, but I'm not talking about something I'm saying. I'm talking about people that have been in the trenches that helped to build out the internet. Some of them are saying that what we're going to talk about tonight is the next internet. When I say that, I mean on the broad spectrum, is the next internet, okay? All right, now, we will have an optional Q&A. I've set up a brand spanking new Facebook fan page, and so if you have questions as we go throughout the material, write it down, and then go over to facebook.com/BitClubNetwork Pro. BitClub Network Pro. Please like the page, and then you can actually send any questions that you might have about any of the content that we share tonight through facebook.com/BitClubNetwork Pro. Or you can put your questions in the questions box here on the webinar panel. Now, let me tell you why I prefer you using Facebook, okay? If we go over with our optional Q&A, you can still post your questions here at facebook.com/BitClubNetwork Pro, and over the next day or two, we should be able to answer those individually, okay? Whereas when you put your questions in the questions box, at the end of the webinar, those questions mysteriously vanish, and I don't see those, okay? All right, so that would be our preference. All right, okay, so let's start to get into our training. I tell you what, I've got one quick poll. I'll have several throughout, but I've got one quick poll before we get into our training for tonight, and this one is real simple. Now, some of you have been on webinars with us before, but if this is the first time you're coming onto a webinar hearing about the next internet, hearing about a system that should go live this week called BitClub. Okay, and I know it's going to be exciting, but we need to lay a very strong foundation as to why we believe that this has legs. So let's go back to the early days of the internet. The early days of the internet. Now, the internet actually precedes when it was in the public sphere. Okay, there was email back in 1971, but that wasn't something that the public readily knew. There were bulletin boards back as early as 1978, but that wasn't something that the public readily knew. When it started to come into the public sphere, you remember AOL? You remember You've Got Mail? You remember dial-up internet? You remember that? Dial-up internet? And we didn't know that it was slow because we had nothing to compare it to. And then in 1994, Netscape came along. Yahoo didn't come along until 1994. The Blue E didn't come along until 1995. Some 6 years after the internet was in the public sphere. It was 6 years later that the Blue E came about. Now, Amazon, remember when Amazon first launched? It was really just all about books. Who knew? Who could have foreseen? Maybe the owners of Amazon, maybe they foresaw it. I don't know. Who could have foreseen that Amazon, this book that launched in 1995, would now be the world's largest online retailer? It's not the world's largest retailer. That's still Walmart. Okay, Walmart does about $500 billion a year in revenues. That's just, those numbers are just mind-boggling. But Walmart does about $10 billion, maybe $11 billion a year in sales online, Walmart.com. Amazon last year, 2013, did $75 billion, 7 times more than what Walmart did online. Who would have thought that in 1995? 1995 was also eBay, and we know eBay's a huge player in the online e-commerce game. PayPal is now owned by eBay. Look, Google didn't come about until 1998, 9 years after the internet came into the public sphere. Now, in these early years, there were a lot of pundits, there were a lot of naysayers, there were a lot of, this thing is not going to last, this is a fad, so on and so forth. And oh my gosh, when we had the dot-com bust, and when the bubble burst, I remember I was trading actively in the stock market. Then March of 2000 is when we started to see that bubble begin to burst. And then then the naysayers just came out of the woodwork. See, I told you. But guess what? The internet was not to be denied. See, you can't uninvent that technology. And so then we had in 2002, we had social networking begin to appear on the radar. LinkedIn. You guys remember MySpace? For a while, MySpace was like the social network. Then Facebook, 2004. Now look at this, 15 years after the internet was in the public sphere. 15 years. AOL 1989, Facebook 2004, Facebook now, the second most visited website in the world. Google, the most visited website in the world. YouTube came about in 2005, the third most visited site in the world. Twitter is in the top 10. Amazon is at number 5, the 5th most visited site in the world. But who would have thought way back in 1989, you've got mail, dial-up internet, that it would be what it is now. And now that has spawned a whole new industry in mobile technology, where people are accessing the internet with their tablets and with their cell phones and so on and so forth. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that? Now, there were some people that happened to be at the right place at the right time. That's a moniker that's used a lot in the home business industry, probably far too much than it should be. But in this case, there were some folks that were at the right place at the right time. So here were some folks that worked for Facebook. They were employees. They were employees. They didn't found the company. They were employees, but they got some stock options. And when Facebook went public, it created over 1,000 millionaires amongst the company's rank and file. And then when had its initial public offering, its IPO, 1,600 millionaires at the right place at the right time. We've heard that a lot, but in this case, you could see it with Twitter, and you could see it with Facebook. Now, my question is, how many of us really got in on that internet revolution? How many of us really got in on that? Now, I know many of us are on the internet now, and we might be making money on the internet. But did we miss out on the real money that was made? And even though going forward we'll make money on the internet, did we miss out on some huge nuggets because we just didn't know? Well, ladies and gentlemen, maybe lightning strikes twice, just maybe, because there are some pundits that are saying that Bitcoin, and if you don't know what Bitcoin is, you probably have heard of it. What the heck is it? We'll answer what the heck it is, okay? Bitcoin, some very smart people, some very wealthy people are saying this is the next internet. There's a gentleman by the name of Mark Anderson. He's been making that comparison even on TV shows like CNBC. Well, who is this Mark Anderson guy, and why is it him as it relates to this? Okay. Mark Anderson helped to start the internet revolution when he co-wrote early web browser Mosaic and co-founded Netscape. If you remember that internet timeline, 1989 was AOL, and then the next piece of that timeline was 1994, Netscape. Well, Mark Anderson was a co-founder of Netscape. He says he views Bitcoin as the next technological revolution. So this isn't a 20-year guy in network marketing. Yours truly saying this. I'm simply regurgitating it, okay? This is somebody who was there. He said he views Bitcoin as the next technological revolution on the scale of the internet. Anderson Horowitz and the venture capital firm Anderson runs with longtime collaborator Ben Horowitz has invested about $50 million in Coinbase and other Bitcoin companies. By the way, Coinbase is a what's called an e-wallet, and it's much like PayPal is to you being able to send money electronically online via PayPal, okay? Coinbase is kind of like a PayPal, if you will, in the Bitcoin world, all right? So, again, this isn't somebody who is a network marketer trying to get you to join his business, okay? This is somebody who was there as the internet was being built out, who had a major part of helping to build the internet out, and I'm sure became wealthy beyond measure as the internet was being built out, saying Bitcoin has that technological revolution on the scale of the internet. He says this, like the internet in 1994, Bitcoin today is seen by the mainstream as weird and scary. Now, when we come to the internet now, it's in the public sphere. It's been in the public sphere for quite some time. Everybody's used to it. But when it first came out in the public sphere, some people didn't want to get on the internet. People were slow to get on the internet. There was this, what is this deregulated communication tool and what have you. There was talk that the only people on the internet were people that were bad guys and bad gals and what have you. But now, think about, go a day, especially a business day, without the internet. See how strange that is. Go a day and see how strange that is. Okay. Okay. So we're hearing people saying that this is the next internet and will have the same impact or maybe even a bigger impact than the internet. But what the heck is Bitcoin? Okay. What the heck is Bitcoin? Give me just a moment. All right. All right. What the heck is this thing called Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a form of digital currency, and really that's the easy, simple answer. It goes well beyond that, beyond the scope of today's webinar. And I will say this, when I say Bitcoin, I'm going to be saying, I'm really talking about the larger industry of Bitcoin. So just like, for instance, I can say the internet, and the internet encompasses Amazon, and the internet encompasses Facebook, and the internet encompasses eBay and all the other sites out there, Google, so on and so forth. So when I say Bitcoin, think of Bitcoin as the larger picture. Think of Bitcoin as the internet. And then there's like 400 of these coins out there. There's Bitcoin, there's Litecoin, there's even Ron Paul has a Ron Paul coin. I'll show you that in a little bit, okay? So when I say Bitcoin, think of the larger picture, okay? Bitcoin is a form of digital currency. It is created and it is held electronically, and here's the key part, no one controls it. That's really big. No one controls it. Now I'm going to take a quick break here, and I want to bring up another set of poll questions. These won't take long. These will not take long. Give me a moment. I want us to go back first to the internet revolution here. I want to ask you if you felt like, even though you might be making money on the internet now, do you feel like, given 1989, 1994, given the IPO with Twitter and Facebook, do you feel like maybe you made the overall industry? It's a digital currency, a lot more to that, I just don't have time to cover it, a digital currency created and held electronically, no one controls it. Bitcoins are not printed like dollars or euros, they are produced, and that's going to be a key, because therein lies the opportunity for you and myself. They are produced by lots of people running computers all around the world using software that solves mathematical problems. Okay, we'll break that down so it doesn't sound overly technical in just a moment. Now, what are some differences between Bitcoin and currencies that you're already familiar with, your local currency in whatever country that you may live in, as an example? Bitcoin can be used to buy things electronically. Well, in that sense, you can use PayPal, for instance, and Solid Trust Pay and Payza and sites like that to make payments electronically, credit cards, debit cards to make payments electronically. So from that standpoint, conventional dollars or euros or yen or whatever your country's currency may be, in many cases you can trade that currency digitally. However, one of Bitcoin's most important characteristics is that it is decentralized. And what that means is there is no government, there is no central bank that controls it, which means no bank or government can manipulate it. Now, there was concern. Would there be central banks? Would there be governments that would try to pump and dump it, meaning, buy a whole bunch of Bitcoin, run up the price, and then dump it, and thereby try to manipulate it? Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's been Bitcoin run-ups and Bitcoin where it fell down and then it got right back up, because here's the thing. Remember this. You can't uninvent the internet, can you? You can't uninvent the Bitcoin technology. Okay, so who prints Bitcoin? How does Bitcoin come into being? Well, nobody prints it. The currency isn't physically printed like, let's say, the US dollar, where every time they print more and more and more money, it devalues the money that's already in circulation. Okay, what happens, second paragraph here, Bitcoin is created digitally by a community of people that anyone can join. Bitcoins are mined. All right, so think of like a gold mine. Think of the gold rush. This is the Bitcoin rush. Bitcoins are mined. Now, what does that mean? It's really just this simple. Now, when I say this simple, I want to give you the simple, I can conceptualize this, okay? There is a network that processes transactions. That's the miners. What a miner basically does is, and a miner isn't so much a person as it is computer networks, okay? So a person may own the computer, but it's basically computer networks that are solving very difficult mathematical equations for the purposes of confirming transactions. So simply think of miners as people that have systems or systems that confirm transactions. So let's say Louise in Canada. Louise has an info product. She's got a training on Facebook, and I want to purchase her info product, and she is willing to accept Bitcoin. Okay, so she gives me her Bitcoin address, no different than someone might give me their PayPal information or their Solid Trust Pay information or their Payza information. And I've got a Bitcoin e-wallet, and I own Bitcoin in my e-wallet. I send Bitcoin to Louise's Bitcoin address, no different than if I was doing it with Solid Trust Pay or Payza or what have you. Okay, well, with the Bitcoin economy, there are folks that have these very sophisticated computer setups that are confirming that transaction. That person would be, or that system would be called a miner. So what would happen here is the computer network is going to verify that the money, the Bitcoin, came from my Bitcoin e-wallet, and that the amount of money that I sent went to the intended place, in this case, going to Louise's Bitcoin e-wallet in Canada. Okay, that is a miner. That is a Bitcoin miner, and it is a huge part of the overall Bitcoin economy. So again, with Bitcoin, what makes it different? It's decentralized. Okay, and why is this so important? We can take so many clues from history. Let's go back to the early part of 2013, just last year, in Cyprus, in the country of Cyprus. Give me just a moment, okay? In the country of Cyprus, they ran into some very difficult financial times. And in order to basically not go bankrupt, there was a proposal on the table that said, the initial proposal was anybody who had a bank account in Cyprus was going to have a haircut, meaning they were going to have a levy against their bank account, or let's say a tax, or let's just say what it really was. They were going to steal people's money. Now, ultimately, that first proposal didn't pass, but the second one, it might have been the second or the third, the other proposal did pass. It did say that if you had more than 100,000 euros in your Cyprus bank account, whatever you had above 100,000 euros, you had no choice in the matter. It wasn't voted on by you, in a democratic process. You woke up one morning and you had far less in your account than what you started off with. If you were in certain banks, you got as much as a 40% theft of your funds above 100,000 euros. But again, what's important to note is that the first proposal wasn't just to go after the folks that had 100,000 or more euros. It was to go after everyone that had a bank account in Cyprus. Ladies and gentlemen, they did that. There were a few, from what I saw, in the news, there were a few protests in the streets. But you know what? The protests, by and large, were pretty tame. I wouldn't be surprised if you see other countries around the world that are broke, because most of these governments are broke, maybe at some point do the same thing. The idea of having a currency that people are now starting to take all the world over, but it's not controlled by any central bank and it's not controlled by any central government, is very, very appealing. So then, is Bitcoin a fad? There were people that you would call them idiots today. You would say they were short-sighted today, but there were people in those early years of the internet that thought the internet was just a fad. Well, let's take a look. In New Mexico, now we're talking about the United States, which probably has the heaviest hand in many cases when it comes to regulations and financial regulations and things of that nature. Well, guess what? Even in the big old land of the free, and I say that tongue-in-cheek, even in the land of the free, guess what's happening there? Bitcoin ATMs are starting to sprout up. The first ones sprouted up in New Mexico. They're starting to sprout up now in Seattle and in Austin, Texas. I spoke with my mom and my dad, and I'm still a mama and a daddy's boy today. And my dad was telling me about a local car dealership that was advertising that they are now accepting Bitcoin, where you can go and buy your car with Bitcoin. There are some big name retailers that are jumping on board. Now, Tilamont, when are you going to get to the money? I'm going to get to the money. But what I want you to get is that where the money is generated from. Because some of you, like me, you don't have time for games. You don't want games. All right, you want something. Yes, I want to get paid every day. Yes, I want to get paid even if I don't recruit, even if I don't do a webinar. But I want to get paid every day and have some comfort level that that daily pay is going to continue and not just abruptly halt because maybe it was a system of people just swapping money, affiliates, paying to join and buying something that maybe didn't have value in the marketplace and whatever. Okay, I want you to get this is real. All right, take a look at this. Big name retailers jumping aboard. Overstock.com was one of the first major retailers to accept Bitcoin, but when they did, other companies started doing the same. And for a moment, let's think about why would a merchant Lorraine, why would a merchant want to take Bitcoin? Well, Ron, here's why. Bitcoin doesn't have the charges associated with it. So a merchant taking Visa, MasterCard is going to pay Visa and MasterCard fees. Here's a quick side note. Once upon a time, I was a part owner of a network marketing company. Unfortunately, it didn't make it, but I learned a lot. We certainly gave it an attaboy. We lost everything when it didn't make it. But in any event, it's from 2006 to 2008. And one of our big challenges is dealing with merchant accounts. So merchant accounts will charge a traditional business, depending on how long they've been around, it might be 1.9, 2.9, 3.9% of the charge, and then some ancillary fees goes to Visa, MasterCard, so on and so forth, okay? Well, in network marketing, they charge a lot more than that. Sometimes it could be double that amount. So in any event, the way it tends to work is that a network marketing company, for instance, will get a line of credit where they can charge $100,000, $500,000, $1 million a month, all right, as an example, to get started. But oftentimes they have to put money up, almost like a security card. They don't have to put up the full amount, but to get $1 million credit line, you might have to put up $200,000, as an example. Okay, so we had our this was our first big shindig offline, Sean, and people were excited, and we had some offline sales. We had a wellness product. We had some offline sales, and we went over our credit limit by just a few $1,000s. Okay, well, guess what the merchant account provider did? With no warning, we get a letter, I think about 3 days later, a certified mail that said that our account had been shut off, one, and the funds that we had just collected over that weekend, they were holding that, and the money that we had put up for the initial kind of deposit type thing, they were holding that for like 6 to 9 months or what have you. We had to pay commissions. Didn't matter. They held what we had just charged as well as like the 20% that we had to put up. Do you see why merchants would like to not necessarily have to do business with Visa or MasterCard? But that's what they had to do. That was the options that were out there. Now all of a sudden, if you are a merchant, you're not having to deal with that type of hijacking. All right. Now all of a sudden, as a merchant, you also don't have to deal with the same type of chargeback risks that you would have with credit cards. Okay. So as a result, now all of a sudden, Tiger Direct, an electronics retailer, they started accepting Bitcoin. Sacramento Kings, that's a basketball team. They started taking Bitcoins. Lord & Taylor, Reed's Jewelers, so on and so forth. In June of this year, we saw companies like Dish Network. This is a $2 billion plus revenue a year company. Expedia, $2 billion plus revenue company starting to accept Bitcoin. Then we started to see companies like Gift, GYF.com, starting to accept and really promoting very heavily on its site Bitcoin. Well, who the heck is Gift? Well, what Gift does is they allow you to buy gift cards, and you can purchase gift cards with, you guessed it, Bitcoin. And then you can use that gift card to go and shop at Amazon or CVS or GameStop or Sears or Target or Home Depot or Whole Foods or any of like 200 or so big box, big name retailers. Okay. Now, you can't go right now straight to Amazon and buy Amazon products with Bitcoin, but you can go and buy a gift card to go to Amazon with Bitcoin and Sears and so on and so forth. Okay? Or think of that as the broad industry, like the internet. Yes, there is a coin called Bitcoin, but there are over 400 now digital, or what's also referred to at times cryptocurrencies. If you hear me say Bitcoin, if you hear me say digital currencies, if you hear me say cryptocurrencies, I'm talking about the same thing. Okay, I may interchange those. I'll try to keep it one thing. But if you hear me say any of those three, or if you hear it on the internet, for instance, if you're doing your research, any of those three, that really comes back to the whole Bitcoin industry. Now, this particular site, we just took a snapshot, and it was showing how you could actually trade. There are actually exchanges where you could trade like you were trading in the stock market. Okay, you can actually trade cryptocurrencies. This site you can trade 150 of them. Other places that are starting to accept Bitcoin, Cheap Air. Not only did it accept Bitcoin, but it started accepting two other coins that are starting to gain popularity, notoriety, and acceptance, called Litecoin, and I don't know if that's Dogecoin. I'll say Dogecoin, okay, for flight bookings. Now, Cheap Air was already having success with Bitcoin. As a matter of fact, they had done $1.5 million in Bitcoin sales, and their customers, this is going to be important for the rest of our discussion here tonight, their customers started saying, hey, will you also take Litecoin? Hey, Rob, will you also take Dogecoin? Okay, and as a result, look at what the CEO, Jeff Clee, said. He said, we've had some successes with Bitcoin. We've gotten some new customers. They're enthusiastic customers. We've gotten a great response since we began accepting Bitcoin, and we had some requests for Dogecoin and Litecoin, and we figured, what the heck? Why not? Of course, I put the what the heck in there. Okay. And so, again, there are over 400 of these coins. You've got Earth Coin, you've got World Coin, you've got Nyan Coin. Look at this. For our Ron Paul fans out there, there's a Ron Paul coin. See, the beautiful part about digital currencies is you don't need anybody's permission to create your own coin. You just need, obviously, you need the tech skills so you can, be a part of that whole network. And then, obviously, you want to have a large following of people that would actually use the coin to give that coin some value. Make a note of what I just said. Kind of asterisk that in your mind, because we're going to come back to that. Okay? Another thing that's happening with Bitcoin is the regulatory climate is starting to warm up to Bitcoin. In the beginning of 2014, China's stance on Bitcoin was ambiguous, they say, at best. There were even at times where it looks like China might have been contentious towards Bitcoin. But listen, if you took all of the folks that live in China that have Bitcoin and took all those Bitcoins, they have 10 times more Bitcoin in the country of China, by its residents obviously, than all of the rest of the world combined. So even the next, if not already, superpower in the world, certainly economic superpower, China, even China wasn't able to stem the tide of Bitcoin. Then you had Russia. After releasing stern warnings about Bitcoin earlier this year, they reconsidered their stance, and basically what the deputy chairman of the Bank of Russia said is these instruments, digital currency, should not be rejected. In California, Governor Jim Brown has granted Bitcoin legal money status. Switzerland is looking to do the same. Now, real quickly, let's go back to Mark Anderson. Mark Anderson was saying, hey, Bitcoin is the next internet. And again, he was there very early on as the internet was starting to build out. Very interesting. Let's look at Bitcoin in 2014 and VC being venture capital. Venture capitalists are ones that raise millions of dollars to help launch companies, to help even launch industries. Okay? In 1995, the early years of the internet, $250 million in 95 went to build out the infrastructure of the internet, various companies and what have you. Okay, it's estimated that $284 million will go in building out the Bitcoin infrastructure just this year. Well, why is this important? Bitcoin was created in 2009, so in its 5th year, it will be more money going into Bitcoin than in the 5th year, or maybe even the 6th year of the internet. Very, very key. Very, very key. Okay? All right. So we're going to start breaking down these, how Bitcoins are mined in just a few moments, and then share the income opportunity side of that. I did want to hit this one here. Here's a gentleman who is of Argentinian descent. I believe he now lives in the U.S. His company has raised some $40 million as they're building out part of the Bitcoin infrastructure. And he says it was very interesting, and I don't have time to really cover this in detail because we've got a lot more content to share with you. But he says this. He says, I think that Bitcoin is going to change the world. This is key. More than the internet did. He says, I'm conscious of what I'm saying. I know that sounds like a leap, and I know it's hard to imagine, but I truly think it touches something that matters more to the huge percentage of the world. Long story short, in this article, he's talking about how the majority of the world doesn't bank like U.S. or let's say Canada or Australia or some parts of Europe, where in those areas a lot of people have a bank account, a checking account, a credit card, a debit card, and banking is fairly easy. Okay, I can tell you, having moved from the U.S. just about a year ago, that what I see is not simple. It's not nearly as easy as what I saw in the States. Most people where I am don't have checking accounts, don't have savings accounts, certainly don't have credit cards or debit cards or things of that nature. And by that, a lot of folks outside of those U.S., Canada, Australia, so on and so forth, which is where most of the world resides, okay, don't have the same accesses to banking. And so what he's saying is that many people are going to have access to being able to store value in the form of Bitcoin that right now have no place to store value because of lack of banking or distrust of banking. Or if you're in Argentina, you didn't want to put your money in the bank because it got swiped. If you were in Cyprus, you didn't want to put your money in the bank. You know, they stole some money. Okay? All right, so in any event, I don't have time to cover that in great detail. But just know that there are some folks that much smarter than I am, much more wealthy than anything that, you know, we made a few bucks on the internet, that are saying this is the next internet. Remember, Facebook, there were some folks there, right place, right time. Remember, Twitter, there were some folks there, right place, right time. Okay, so we've given you about 40 plus minutes of showing that this is a major industry. Now the question is, how can you, how can I, how can we capitalize on this digital Bitcoin cryptocurrency revolution? And one of the ways we can is by something called mining. Again, Bitcoin mining, digital currency mining, cryptocurrency mining. Okay, so let's go back and let's see what mining is all about. All right, so mining really is where the network processes transactions to confirm that the person who sent Bitcoin, and by the way, it's anonymous, so nobody sees your name. They simply see that there is this long string of numbers and letters, 32 letters and numbers and uppercase and lowercase and what have you. So they don't see that John Smith sent funds to Mike Mudd. They don't see that. They just see that this string of 32 characters sent this string of 32 characters so much in Bitcoin. The miners are processing the transactions. Okay? All right, so this is how Bitcoin mining works. In traditional fiat money systems, governments simply print more money when they need to, but in Bitcoin, money isn't printed at all. It is discovered. Computers around the world mine for coins by competing with each other. People are sending Bitcoins to each other over the Bitcoin network all of the time, but unless someone keeps a record of all these transactions, no one would be able to keep track of who paid what. The Bitcoin network deals with this by collecting all of the transactions made during a set period into a list called a block. It is the miner's job to confirm those transactions. There you go. Confirmation. They're confirmers. Okay? Now, it really isn't people doing this. It's people that have very sophisticated computers and hardware and software and power, computer power, that's doing this. You can purchase the computers. I can purchase the computers. But it's not the people. It's the computing systems. Now, here's the challenge with the average person becoming a miner by themselves. Okay? The challenge is this. It requires intense computer power. So this is not like going to Best Buy and getting the top of the line this, or going to the Apple store and getting the top of the line Apple. No, this is intense computer power. It creates, it requires a ton of electricity and also a significant investment. By the way, let me show you how this works. Bitcoin will only have 21 million Bitcoins ever to exist. Okay? Only 21 million. Right now there's 12.7 million in existence, and every 7 to 10 minutes, another 25 Bitcoins are released to who? Who gets those 25 Bitcoins? In that mining network. So the purpose of mining is to collect or to earn Bitcoin. The challenge is it requires a lot of computing power, a lot of electricity, significant investment, to the point that most people wouldn't be able to be very profitable if they were mining on their own. So the problem, intense computing power means a lot of money, a lot of electricity, so your power bill, if you went and bought your own system, and there are companies that sell these, okay, so you can go out and buy your own system, expect your power bill to go up, okay, and normally it takes a large initial investment to get started, but the biggest thing is this. Think about this for a moment. Let's think this through. You go into Best Buy today, you go online to Dell, you go online to Apple, and you buy the top of the line whatever. You go and you buy a mobile apparatus. You buy a tablet, you buy a new cell phone. It is the top of the top of the top. It doesn't get any faster. It doesn't come with any more gadgets. You have the top. Is that the top of the top of the top 6 months from now? And we know the answer to that. No. By the time you buy the top of the top, I buy the top of the top, they're already ready to release the next top of the top in a few months. And so what happens, the challenge, if you go out and buy software or you buy computing power on your own, is that you can mine and you can make some good money potentially, but 6 months from now, you don't have the same speed that somebody who's just buying a new system today or somebody's upgrading to a new system today has. And so for that reason, to do it right requires continual investments into buying more and more computer power. Okay, so that's the problem. What's the solution? Participating in a certain type of Bitcoin mining pool. And this is where BitClub Network is going to come into play. But before we get to BitClub Network, which is it's going to be a huge mining pool operation, let me show you that what BitClub Network is doing is not new. Now, Robert, it might be new to you. Shelly, it might be new to you. Laura, it might be new to you. It was new to me, but it's not new. Let me show you what I'm talking about, okay? By the way, by participating in a Bitcoin mining pool, you essentially purchase computer speed, which helps that operation mine these digital, crypto, Bitcoin currencies. Let me make sure you understand this. I had this question come to me on Skype, so I want to make sure I'm crystal clear. You are not buying equipment that's going to come to your house and then you have to become a miner. What you're simply doing is you're buying computer speed with a group of people, like a group buy, and then BitClub Network has the space right now. They're existing miners in Germany, where they have the computers, and they will be adding all the new hardware and what have you, and ultimately will be expanding their mining operations throughout. In many cases, it's going to be throughout Europe, and we'll talk about why Europe, for instance, as we get further into the webinar. I'm going to share with you some sites where these are mining pools that you could be a part of that do not require you to recruit anybody, they do not require you to sponsor anybody, they do not require you to have a list, and you don't have to have the hardware. Essentially, you are buying or you're renting the computer power, and as a result, you get paid. I'm not recommending any of these. I'm simply sharing this with you to let you know that these types of pools are not new. They already exist. So let's take a look at the first one here, Group Bitcoin. Group Bitcoin. Okay? I want you to understand what they are saying here. So they talk about cloud mining contracts from Group Bitcoin. They say, welcome to Group Bitcoin Mining. Based in the UK, we aim to reduce the risk of investing in Bitcoin mining while ensuring every member the highest returns possible. We take care of all the mining tasks. Maintenance. We take care of all the maintenance, they're saying. We take care of all the upkeep. You don't have to buy the computers, okay? You don't have to store them at your house. You don't have to worry about your electric bill going up, okay? They take care of all of that. Look at what they say. You just sit back and receive your share of mined coins. Sounds simple, right? It is. So this is not new. When we get to BitClub Network, you're going to see this is not new. It's just that BitClub Network has taken what some existing mines are doing and really taking it to the next level. And I'll share with you in a few moments why they're taking it to the next level. Here's another one. This is Nimbus Mining. This operation is actually out of the U.S. They've got offices in San Francisco and in Miami. And this one has a 12-month contract. Most of the ones that are out in the public sphere that I've seen have a 12-month contract, meaning if you participate in their mining, you put up whatever your outlay happens to be, whatever you're comfortable with, and that buys a certain amount of computer speed, which then you share in the pool's mined coins. So you get so much of, so many fractions of a Bitcoin each day. And of course, Bitcoin can easily be converted into your country's currency, whatever your currency happens to be. Okay. Now let's see this one real quickly. Let's read this real quick. What is cloud mining? Cloud mining is a service that allows anyone to take part in the mining of Bitcoins by renting miners' hardware time in the cloud. And that simply means you don't have to have the actual physical hardware in your house or in your office. It goes on to talk about hashing power, which is basically your computer power and how it's measured in the mining plans with gigahashes. That's kind of technical, but that's essentially what we're buying or renting is this how fast is this system going to go that's going to be mining coins and things of that nature, okay? So you can see here with Nimbus, they've got a few options here. I'm not recommending them. I just want you to see that there are other mining operations out there that are already going, and so this is not new, maybe just new to us. Take a look. Here's a $350 package from Nimbus Mining, a $1,575 US dollar package, a $2,800 US package, so on and so forth. If you want something bigger, contact us for a larger order. Again, you'll see here that they've got offices in San Francisco. They've got offices also in Miami, in the US. Here's another. I'll show two more, and then we'll get to BitClub Network. Here is cloud hashing. And cloud hashing says, hey, our mining contract features daily payouts. All right, once again, that's not new. It may be new to us, and the reason we're doing this webinar is to help get this message out so that people that are looking to make money can make money even if they're not good at list building or recruiting or what have you. Okay, so they've got daily payouts, 1 year term. 1 year term. So think this through. If you purchase one of their contracts, you know for a period of a year, 365 days, you're going to earn daily. Now you earn in Bitcoin, and then you can convert that Bitcoin into whatever your country's currency happens to be. Now here's some examples. I'll come back and I'll talk about this in just a few moments. They've got a bronze package that's $300. They've got a silver package that's $1,000. They've got a gold package that's almost $3,000. And they even have some folks, obviously, that are purchasing larger contracts than that. They're telling folks if you want to start with a contract of $10,000 or more, hey, they're available. Give us a call. We'll, put together your package, so on and so forth. Now, let's talk about so far the biggest of these mines. This is the granddaddy right now. This is the grand poobah right now. I don't think there'll be the grand poobah long. I think BitClub Network will be the grand poobah, but this is the grand poobah right now. And I want to spend a little extra time on cex.io. By the way, any of these you can go and check out. Google, check them out yourself, and you'll see. I'm just simply taking screenshots from their sites. Okay, now let's go back to cex.io real quickly. All right, this whole mining pool. Remember, Bitcoin's only 5 years young. Okay, so the opportunity that we're going to share in a few moments with Bitcoin Network dealing with mining pools is still very young. But I go back to, do you feel like you missed out on the internet revolution? 90% of you said yes. All right, I'd like to connect with the other 10% that said no. I'd like to hear your story. I really would. Okay, all right, I don't want to miss out on the Bitcoin revolution. Now, I don't know the other ways that we can take advantage of Bitcoin just yet in terms of that revolution, but I do know that these mining pools are gaining extreme popularity. And why wouldn't they? If people could purchase a contract and start making money every day for 365 days. Okay, here we go. So January 2013, they started the development. October 2013, they acquired some GHash assets, some computer speed assets. November 2013, they registered. So this is less than a full year. They launched their pools, and now they have a very successful pool. So let's take a look. I want to go back, and I want to look at about 6 days ago. Let me see, what day was the first? All right, so this was last Monday. All right, so we did a webinar last Monday, and on that webinar, it was September the 1st. We looked at and did a screenshot right before I did the webinar. I'm sorry, we didn't have a webinar Monday. I did the screenshot last Monday. I believe that was the case. So it was about 9 p.m. last Monday, so not quite a full week, so 6 days. Okay, and at that time, cex.io had mined in less than a year 448,725 Bitcoins. Why? Because they've got this huge operation running 24/7 that's always confirming transactions, and as they confirm transactions through their mining operation, the mine receives Bitcoins. Remember, 25 Bitcoins are released every 7 to 10 minutes, and because they have such a large mining operation, they're getting a good amount of the new Bitcoins that are being produced. Okay, 448,720. Now, I want to do this. I want to go to cex.io right now. Bear with me. And this is going to give us a good idea. This has been 6 days now. Give me a moment. Let me refresh the screen. Okay. Now, please pay very close attention, especially those of you that have been in the home business world where you were part of a compensation model where you got paid every day, whether or not you had a list, whether or not you had any recruits, and it was exciting, and maybe that structure went away because of maybe some regulatory concerns. Please pay very close attention. Now, I want to take where they are right now. I just refreshed the screen. All right, so they've mined 454,065 coins since they started their mining operation, which we know now is less than a full year. Okay, where were they? Well, first off, let's just look at this: 454,065. Okay, let's take a look at where Bitcoin going now. Bitcoin is going for about $494. That was the last price on this site. So if I took the 454,000 mined coins times 494, there were coins that were mined when Bitcoin was higher in price. There were coins that were mined when Bitcoin was lower in price. But the only thing we really have to work on is what's that price roughly now. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. And we got to put some commas in here. That means that this one mine has mined in US dollars about $224 million worth of Bitcoin in less than a year. That, for those of you that have ever been a part of I make money every single day, every day is payday, whether I recruit anybody or not, and you saw that go away, and maybe there was a regulatory concern. A big part of the concern was that company making real revenue outside of people simply making purchases of what have you. And This is real revenue coming from the mining operation. If no person joined CEX.io, if nobody ever joined, if they close off membership and said we're not accepting any more applicants or whatever they call their folks, okay, they still would be generating huge sums of money. So let's go and look at the last 6 days, okay? Let's take where they are now, and I'll do the 6. I'm going to refresh my screen so you'll know that these are real numbers. 454,065 coins. All right, let's put this in my calculator. 454,065. Let's go back to the screenshot of last Monday when I took it. So it's been about 6 days. Let me pull out my calculator. Sorry. And look at where they were last Monday, 6 days. They were at 448,725. They have mined 5,340 Bitcoins in the last 6 days. If we take that and multiply it times 492, which is what CEX.io was showing as Bitcoin pricing, in the last 6 days, ladies and gentlemen, that's $2.6 million in US dollars. If you took the Bitcoins that were mined and you converted that all to US dollars in the last 6 days, $2.6 million. Let's just see what that is averaging a day. Over $400,000 a day of real revenue. Let me hear you say it. Real revenue. I know you're muted out. I still want to hear you loud and clear. Real revenue. I'm going to show you a very powerful BitClub network, but it's important for us to understand this foundation. That's why we've spent this 64 minutes on this foundation. Okay, now let me show you something else that's very interesting to note. Okay, something that's very interesting to note. Let's take a look at the active traders with CEX.io. We'll look back again 6 days ago. 269,648 active traders. Now I take that to mean they're active participants, people that have purchased contracts with them. If I'm wrong on that, I haven't seen anything that suggests that I'm wrong, but if I'm wrong on that and someone sees that, feel free to bring that to my attention. But that's what I take that to mean, okay? Now, let's go and see where they are. Excuse me. Let me make sure I put the right number in there. Okay, so this is where they were last Monday. Let's go and see where they are right now. Okay, so now they're at 273,807 active participants. Okay? So in the last 6 days, they've grown their participant base by 4,159. Let's see what that averages on a daily basis. About 693 new participants each day. Now, why did I want to bring that up? Why are you talking about them if you're going to be talking about BitClub Network? All right? Aren't you talking about the competition? Believe me, no. All right. You would think that growing at almost 700 new folks a day, that this company has an amazing, phenomenal, fantastic, incredible, best of the best, never seen before referral structure. I mean, gosh, they have to be rewarding their current participants immensely well to bring on a lot of new participants. But that's not the case, ladies and gentlemen. You know what they pay? They pay 3%. You refer me and I go to CEX.io, even if I go with $100,000 to buy contracts, you get 3% one time, period, end of story. Now what am I saying? If they're growing in less than a year by almost 700 people a day with an inferior model to compensate people for referring, then what do you think BitClub Network could do when they pay have such a powerful referral structure? Okay. So So now, let's introduce you to BitClub Network. This is what you've been waiting to hear, but I needed to set the stage. I needed to give you a foundation, particularly because I know a lot of you have been through some of the daily pay models that maybe lasted for a while and didn't work. So it was important for you to see real money, real revenue, and where's it coming from. So let's talk about BitClub Network. Okay? BitClub Network, or BCN, as I'll often refer to it, has created a platform that allows people from all walks of life, from all over the world. So right before we got on the webinar, I'm talking to Elmer in Philippines, who's being referred by Louise in Australia. I'm talking to Frank by email as he's setting up a private webinar for leaders that he has all across the globe, including folks in Russia, and they're planning on having thousands of people joining them just from their Russian team. Last week I'm talking to a very dear buddy, marketing buddy of mine, and his partners out of Israel that once upon a time in one marketing venture they had, they basically owned Israel. Okay, people from all across the globe, Canada, all across the globe. We've got Canada represented tonight, South Africa, Jamaica, what have you. Okay, it allows everyone to participate. Okay. What BCN has done is they've married the daily earning potential of Bitcoin pools, and they've really put together a phenomenal relationship marketing model, a network type of model. Now, you don't have to participate on the network side, but I think what you're going to find out is that once you start earning, you're going to want to tell people anyway, okay? BCN has 3 pools. There's a $500 pool, there's a $1,000 pool, there's a $2,000 pool. You can participate in as many of these pools as you would like. You can have as many units, I won't say shares, as many units in each of these pools as you would like. One unit of the $500 pool is a $500 US outlay in Bitcoin. So if you're using something other than US dollars, you just need to figure out what the US dollar equivalent is and make sure you're converting that into Bitcoin. Okay, all of our purchases will be in Bitcoin, and then will be commissioned in Bitcoin. Our daily earnings will be paid in Bitcoin. Again, you can always convert that into whatever your country's currency happens to be. And therein is another feature of Bitcoin, is it doesn't matter what your currency happens to be. A lot of companies pay you, let's say, in US dollars, but that may not convert well in wherever you are, because the US dollar versus your currency, your currency may not do well. I can tell you every day as I'm coming to my office, I look at the currency of the nation where I now live, and it fluctuates. And right now, it's down against the dollar. Well, the fact is, when you are paid in Bitcoin, it converts into whatever currency that you might be using. Okay? Now, as always, we'll say this. Purchase participation in as many pools as you would like, as many units as you would like in any of these pools. Just don't hurt your family. Don't go into debt. Don't put yourself in harm's way. Okay? All right. By the way, with our pools, instead of you getting paid for 365 days, you're going to get paid for 1,000. Okay? By the way, when you have a unit in the $500 pool, there is a recapitalization mechanism. Some people like to call it repurchase. I don't like that terminology because it seems like regulators don't seem to like that terminology, so I like to just stay away from what we think regulators don't like. Okay, so I like to refer to it as recapitalization, or recapping for short, and that simply means that whatever your daily earnings happen to be, all right, 50% automatically go to purchase more computing power. Okay, recapping. You have the option, you get the other 50%, and if you want that to purchase more computing power, you can. That just gives you more fractional units into that particular pool, which they also earn for 1,000 days. Or you can say, hey, I want the $50 to, or the 50%, excuse me, to be converted into my country's currency. You would get the Bitcoin, you would move the Bitcoin to your Bitcoin e-wallet, and then you would convert it into your country's currency. Okay? If you have a unit in the $1,000 pool, then your automatic recapping is 40/60. So at least 40% goes to recap. Now let me tell you why this is so important. Because what's important to have a very successful and a thriving mind is the continual recapitalization into buying faster computer power. So today, BitClub Network gets the top of the line, and then a month from now, today's top of the line isn't quite the top of the line anymore. So, hey, with the recapping, they've got the resources, even if new people don't join. They've got the resources to always stay on the cutting edge. And because mining Bitcoin is really about how fast your computers are, and having the fastest computers allows you to mine more and more coins. That's one of the reasons why CEX.io is doing so well. If you've got a unit or units in the $2,000 pool, you've got a 3070 recap there. Okay? All right. Now, again, I just wanted to show this particular Nimbus mining again. I wanted you to see that they have 12 months of mining, all right, 12-month contract. But BCN pays us for each unit for not a year, but for 1,000 days, almost 3 full years, okay, almost 3 full years. All of the mining pools that I saw, CEX.io, Nimbus, so on and so forth, all of the ones that I saw, 1-year contracts, 365 days. BCN, 1,000 days. Okay? Another thing that's very important to know, no auto ship, no monthly subscription requirements. There'll be a $99 one-time purchase, one-time fee, and that's for training about Bitcoin. They want us to really understand this whole cryptocurrency world. And then you simply purchase as many units in as many of the pools as you would like. In a perfect world, you'd purchase a unit in the 500 and the 1,000 and the $2,000 pool. Not everybody's going to have the resources to do 3,500 in pool purchases and then the 99 up front. But in time, you want to build up to where you can do that, and maybe you're doing that with earnings and or commissions if you're building a following and a team and so on and so forth. Okay. All right. You're going to be paid daily in Bitcoin. So the $500 pool. Again, 50% of that goes to recap. The other 50%, whatever you want to do with it. Okay. The $1,000 pool, 40 goes to recap. The other 60%, whatever you want to do with it. 2,000, 30% recap. The other 70%, whatever you want to do with that. We'll be sharing in some of our training as this goes live and you get situated. We'll be sharing with you some thoughts and some ideas on some strategies in terms of growing your pools. The units in your pools, and at the same time having some balance so that ultimately you're converting some Bitcoin into your country's currency for whatever it is you need to do, paying bills, reinvesting back into your business in terms of marketing or whatever. Okay, so we'll be covering some of those things. All right. Now I want to give you this quick disclaimer. All right, we're going to be paid each day. But what we're paid is going to fluctuate. There's a lot of variables, and I don't have time to really cover those variables. The following I'm going to show is an example. I'm going to use an example of one of the existing pools that we've just shown. And this will give you a conceptual framework. Okay, this is not to suggest or to promise any results. What am I going to get paid daily? There's a lot of variables. Okay, but I want to show you how it's working with another pool, and we can use that to gauge the potential. Let's say it like that, okay? All right, so one of these sites that we looked at was Cloud Hashing, and it had 3 different packages. I'm just going to go right down the middle and do the silver package. It's $1,000, $999. And what it showed that was interesting, it showed that its mining power produced in June 0.29 Bitcoins, okay? Now, what does that mean? All right, 0.29 Bitcoins. Now, Bitcoin's been going between like the 470s and the 520s for the last couple of weeks or so. So when I did this, I just used 500 as a nice round number, and that's about where Bitcoin's been hanging out anyway, okay? So I said, okay, if you took 0.29 Bitcoin, so if you had purchased this contract with this company, you'd be earning for 365 days, okay? Based on this contract with this company, at that time, you were getting some fairly fast Ghash, okay? Fast computer speed, all right? And you would have mined, you would have gotten 0.29 Bitcoins for every contract you had. So if you had 2 contracts of this, you would have got 0.29 times 2. If you had 10 contracts, you would have gotten 0.29 times 10. But what does that mean in dollars and cents? Well, if you took the 0.29 times 500 for basically what Bitcoin is going for, that would have been about 145 US dollars for the month. Now, since it's 30 days in June, it was easy to figure out an average of about $4.83 per day. And if you took this $4.83 average per day, divided it by the $1,000, $999 outlay for that contract, then this is roughly what you were making per day. There were days when it was higher, there were days when it was lower, 0.0048, or let's call it 0.005 as an example, okay? Now, can I promise that you're going to get 0.005 every day? No. There might be days that will be higher. There might be days that will be lower. We've been given some mathematics of what they expect as potential. But again, I want to just kind of temper that. I don't want people to be thinking or saying the wrong things, okay? So I'm just going to use this example here, $4.83 a day. Okay. So let's say you had 1 unit of the $1,000 pool in BitClub Network. And let's say, with all my disclaimers, my if, my could, would, might be, all my disclaimers, if you average $4.83 a day over 1,000 days. Well, if your participation was $1,000 for that unit, and if you average $4.83 a day over 1,000 days, well, is that pretty good? I'll let you do the numbers on that, okay? And one thing that you also need to be aware of is that every day that you are getting your earnings, we know there's going to be some recapping of your earnings, which means that's going to add to your participation in that pool. So 1,000, you're in the $1,000 pool in my example. If you earn $4.83 that day, and you said, you know what, I know I only have to recap at 40%, and I could take out 60% of that 483, but that really wouldn't do me a whole lot in my life. Let me just kind of build up my pool participation. So let's assume in this example, for right now, you just allowed all 483 to go back to buying more computer power. Well, now, the next day, you would have 1,000 and then 4.83 in terms of participation in that pool. So that fractional unit, 1 unit was 1,000 US dollar, US in Bitcoin. So that fractional unit of 4.83, that also earns the day after that. Matter of fact, let's show you that. Let's show you that. Give me just a few moments here. Okay? Let's show you that. Okay, so here's the example. All right, you have a unit in the $1,000 pool. Now, you might very well have a unit or units in the $500 pool and then a $2,000 pool, so on and so forth. But let's say you've got a unit in the $1,000 pool, all right? And that unit produced, in this example, I'm just going to round up and say 5, all right? $4.83. I'm just going to round up and say $5 in Bitcoin, all right? So whatever Bitcoin is going for that day, you would receive, the proportionate amount of Bitcoins, which would be 0.00 whatever, okay? All right, so now, we know that in the $1,000 pool, that at least 40% goes back into the pool into buying more computer power, and that's going to also increase your participation in that pool. And obviously the other 60% is totally up to you. In our example, what we assumed is that 100% of the $5 in this example went back into the pool. So the next day you'd have 1,005. So basically you've got, that one unit is 1,000, and then you got the 0.5, which is a fractional unit. Okay? Well, that fractional unit, this extra 5 here, is also earning. And it will continue to earn. So let's go a month down the road. Maybe, I don't know what the numbers would be. Maybe you're at 150 as an example. Okay? Well, now all of a sudden this 150 is still a fractional unit of the $1,000 pool, but this 150 is also earning every day. All right, you get up to 1,987. Okay, because your pool participation, even if you withdrew everything that you were eligible to withdraw, is going to be growing every day. Okay, there's no 90-day cycle here or 100-day cycle. We're talking 1,000 days. So this 987 is still earning. Then once you hit a second full unit, now once you hit 2,000 or over, all right, when you hit 2,000, well, now you have organically grown an additional unit in the $1,000 pool, and now guess what? This new unit, which is in this case $1,000, got you that full participation in that pool. Fractionally, you were still earning. Okay, this new unit earns, and we've got a nice little thunderstorm going on here, so you might be hearing that. This new unit earns for 1,000 days. And guess what? Guess what? When you're at 2,010 in your pool participation, guess what happens to this 10? It earns and it earns and it earns until it reaches another full unit, until it hits 3,000. Then that other unit that's now at 3,000, that made 3,000, it earns for 1,000 days. And so what I want you to get, ladies and gentlemen, even if you didn't build a list, even if you didn't recruit anyone, by being a participant, and a participant joins with $99 and purchases as many units in as many pools as your resources comfortably allow, without you hurting your family, without you going into debt, without you putting yourself in harm's way. Powerful, powerful. Now, I'm going to start the round third here, but I'm going to do an optional session for those of you that want to increase the velocity of how fast your pool participation grows. I'm going to show you real quickly how you can increase that should you refer a few people. Know that you are not required to refer anyone to participate with the pools. But for those who do want to, now I want to show you, and even if you don't think you can, stick around for that optional session. We're going to start that optional session in about 5 minutes. Okay? All right. Remember, there were some people at the right place, some employees that worked for Facebook, and I'm sure that there were some people that worked for Facebook that quit before they got their stock options. And there were probably some people that worked for Facebook that the stock options were available and they didn't take advantage of them. And then when Facebook went public, it had no impact on them. Don't let that be what's said about you and your family as it relates to the BitClub Network. Okay? There are people who I'm sure work for Twitter that maybe had the opportunity to get stock options, but maybe didn't have the vision, and they worked right alongside somebody else who got the vision and got some stock options, and that other person became a millionaire, and now they're sulking, talking about how bad life is and how things aren't fair. Ladies and gentlemen, one of my great mentors, multimillionaire mentor, taught me this years ago. He says, when the potential rewards are great, don't be afraid to take the limited risk. What's my risk? $99 plus whatever I choose to participate in with my pools, which never be borrowed money. It should never be scared money. I've got to use this money to pay bills next week. It should never be money that I couldn't comfortably set aside for some type of interest like this. Okay? That's my risk. I already know what my downside risk is. I already know what my downside risk is. But what I can't tell you is what my upside is. And I like that. I like playing the game when I know my downside and it's limited and I know what that risk is from a financial perspective, but you can't tell me what my upside is, and the upside looks like, don't tell me the sky's the limit, because there's also space. So it goes beyond the sky. Okay? So this to do, and then we're going to get into an optional session to show you how to really accelerate your pool participation. Okay? Don't miss the Bitcoin revolution. Don't miss this next revolution. Don't miss BitClub Network. Okay? So here's what's next. BitClub Network is scheduled to go live this week. As a matter of fact, while we were on the webinar, someone was Skyping me, and he's kind of taken the lead in the field. And so I'll get back with him. But it looks like the last conversation I had with him over the weekend, or Friday, I believe it was, Wednesday, looks like a really good possibility that the system is going to go live. Whoever got you to our following, whoever got you to our webinar, whoever got this information to you, follow them closely. Email them, Skype them, Facebook them, tweet them, text them, however you communicate with them, and say, hey, make sure I'm on your list. So just as soon as you get your link, your referral link, get me the link. Nobody has any referral links yet. Okay, I don't have my referral link yet. As soon as I've got my referral link, then I will let the appropriate know, those that should be connected to me by virtue of my referral know. And here's what I want you to get, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to build this thing. We're going to build it bigger than we've ever built anything before. And even if you're not connected to us directly or even indirectly, all right, we want the pool to grow huge. As a matter of fact, that's something I forgot to say. I'll bring this up in the optional session. I'll talk about the vision. Will someone remind me when we get to the optional session to hit on the vision before I even talk about the money side? Be important. I need to make sure you get the vision. Okay? And then you want to set up a Bitcoin e-wallet. Okay? I want to give you a site to go to. So you want to set up a Bitcoin e-wallet, and obviously we've got a global following, so I want to give you a site that you can go to that will assist you. And I spent a little time going through here to see the best options for you. If you would go to bitcoin.org, that's a great site to go to. It gives you a number of different e-wallets, and it gives you kind of a comparison that you can see with those e-wallets, so you can see the best e-wallet or e-wallet for you in your country, so on and so forth. Okay, bitcoin.org. An e-wallet, think of that like a PayPal or Solid Trust Pay or a Payza, only instead of you transacting with US dollars or your country's currency, you are converting your country's currency into Bitcoin, and then you're going to be making your purchases, your $99 purchase, $99 in Bitcoin. Okay, your pool participation will be in Bitcoin. Likewise, you're going to be paid in Bitcoin. You'll be able to send it back to your Bitcoin e-wallet, then convert it to whatever your currency happens to be. Okay? All right. Let me post one thing here, then we'll post session here. I'm aware that we have gone 90 minutes, and we're going to go into an optional session, and some of you, if you have to log off, but you still have questions, the best thing to do would be to hit us on Facebook.com/BitClubNetwork Pro. Facebook.com/BitClubNetwork Pro. Or if you're going to stick around, you can put questions in your questions box here. It doesn't sound like I'm leaving anytime soon, because it's raining quite hard outside, and I've got an ATM, I call it a four-wheeler here, and I'm not going to be driving in that. So I'm going to be here for a little bit, so we'll definitely get into some Q&As. Before we get into Q&As, let's do our optional session here. I want to talk vision first, so don't forget that. I don't know if you guys hear all that. And then we're going to talk about the referral side. By the way, one of the things I plan to do, I don't know if it will get done this week. I'm hoping this week, is what we've done here tonight, what we did on Friday, Thursday of last week. I've gotten rave reviews from people saying, boy, this really helped open my eyes. I am cognizant that some people, while they really enjoy this content, maybe need this type of content in bite-sized pieces. So one of the things I plan on doing, I hope to get to it this week, is to record what we've done, but to break it down in modules, maybe 20-30 minute modules. So the whole thing it's still going to be, maybe a couple hours of content, but in bite-sized pieces, because it may be that someone's done some research and now they just want to see how are they going to get paid, okay? Or maybe someone has done a little research and they don't need the front part of what we did, but they need the middle part. So we do plan on doing that. My gosh, can you guys hear that? Can you guys hear that thunder? Or is that just me? Can you guys hear that?
We can't hear it. I can't hear it.
You can't?
No. Nope.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then I don't have to reference it then. Okay. I thought you guys were here now.
We don't hear it. The only thing that happened was when it started, there was a little bit of static, but now you've cleared up even from that too.
Okay. Okay. Thanks a lot. All right, guys. Let me do this real quickly. Let's talk about the vision. As I understand it, and I'm sure I only understand a small part. Now, the vision is to start off with the mining, okay? And obviously this is where we all can earn for 1,000 days, and we'll start talking about building out the network in just a few moments, okay? But one of the things is that they definitely looked at the fact that CEX.io has going on 300,000 participants, okay? And with a very inferior referral model. And where they want to go with this is that ultimately not only do they want to have a huge mining operation, but they ultimately want to have their own coin. Now, this is me saying this part. I don't know what they're going to call it, but let's call it the BCN coin, okay? So let's say they start off with the BCN coin. Well, there's over 400 coins out there, okay? When they launch the BCN coin, so the number I have heard is that they want to get to 1 million participants, okay? And then they want to launch their coin. I don't know if they want to get to 1 million before launching the coin, but let's say that's the case, okay? And then, so now when they launch the coin, what's the coin going to be worth? It's not being taken on gift.com. People aren't buying cars with it. You can't buy gift cards at Amazon from gift.com site. So what's it worth? Supply and demand. There's supply, there's not a lot of demand. Not worth much. Okay, so think of that like a penny stock. Okay, all right, or maybe those options that the folks had at Facebook and Twitter. All right, they weren't worth anything really until the company went public. Now, I'm not suggesting that this company is going to go public. I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that. Again, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just using that as an analogy, okay? Now, one thing that can happen, however, is maybe there's some type of directory of BCN coin acceptors. I don't know if you spell that with the E or R. So let's say, for instance, I was using Louise in Canada as an example. So Louise, let's say, has, an e-commerce site. She's selling info products. She's selling how-to products. And she's in BCN, and she says, hey, yes, I will take BCN coin. So T. Lamont sees value in whatever she's offering, and I'm willing to send her BCN coin, and she's willing to give me the product or service. Because a currency is not money. See, money is silver. Money is gold, okay? Currency is what can be exchanged as tender for goods and services, and with digital currency, who determines that? The people, the exchangers. If it's peer-to-peer, so if it's $100 US, but that means that I need to send 10,000 BCN coins because the coins aren't worth that much. Hey, Queen, did you hear that one? Queen, I got to ask you, did you hear that one?
I heard that one, yes. sounded like a rush of water.
The BCN gold rush, the BCN, the Bitcoin rush. Okay, all right.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, you know what? It was a sound effect that you know. Because it really was. Because I said, "Oh, okay."
Okay, so prayerfully I won't have any power issues, okay, because it is storming pretty bad here. Okay, so I want you to think about 1 million folks, BCN coin. Maybe at first we start exchanging amongst each other. We find other people that have products and services that we want. They take BCN coin. We exchange BCN coin, okay? But then ultimately they want to go to sites like agift.com or a Shopify.com. And they want to be able to say, hey, we've got 1 million participants that have our coin, that if you start accepting our coin, they'll start buying with our coin. Now, what would BCN coin be worth? What might have been only pennies might now be a few dollars. What might have been a few dollars might become $50, $60. If you look at Bitcoin in its history, the first Bitcoin transaction was for 2 pizzas. And it was 10,000 Bitcoin. Now, what did 2 pizzas cost? Let's say, Queen, you got 2 large pizzas for $30 US, okay, collectively. If I divided that by 10,000 Bitcoin, so Queen, Bitcoin wasn't even going for a full penny. Wow. Okay.
You heard that one too.
Okay. Bitcoin wasn't even going for a full penny. Look at this, Queen. Bitcoin wasn't even going for a full penny. And let's see. Now, she's in the $500 range. Okay? Now, Queen, we did a webinar, and I'm going to get to the compensation in just a moment. We did a webinar a few weeks ago, and we surveyed and we did a poll of our audience. The overwhelming majority of our audience was 40 plus, and we asked them retirement-related questions. The overwhelming majority of our audience didn't have nearly what they needed to have for an enjoyable and a comfortable retirement. Okay? I'm not saying this is a retirement plan, but what I am saying is, if we know that this is where they want to go, and we already see a CEX.io with a far inferior model than what I'm going to show you in this optional session. That CEX.io already has 300,000 participants. And if we get to 1 million and they launch their own coin, and then they can go to some site and say, hey, start taking our coin, and we start using that coin, could we see a coin that's not worth much of anything, like that Bitcoin was worth less than a penny? Could we see that go up to $20 a coin? And what if you had 100,000 coins? What if you had 1 million coins? So when I show this, I show these folks that happen to be at the right place at the right time. While we're not talking about shares of ownership of a company like Facebook, or we're not talking stock options like Twitter IPOs, I see there could perhaps, maybe, if all of my disclaimers, be the potential of getting some coins on the very inexpensive before the world knows about it. And even if the whole world never accepts BCN coin like they do Bitcoin, but we get it on a few shops, we get it on some, some big places, so it drives up the price of that coin. And if you're holding some of that and you liquidate some of that to lock in some profits, hey, okay? So again, when the potential rewards are great, don't be afraid to take the limited risk. Okay, now this is our optional session. I'm going to give you a resource to go and look at everything I'm about to share with you. That is BitClubNetwork payplan.com. Okay? BitClubNetwork payplan.com. Now, while you are not required to recruit and you're not required to build a list, I can tell you, you can make a lot more money should you decide to do so. And so I want you to follow us very closely. And obviously, if you have folks in your leadership that you'll be joining with that will be teaching maybe some traffic generating strategies or ways to get people to your site, follow them. But we're going to be sharing, we're going to be doing some very aggressive. We'll be testing initially, and then when we find things that are working that we believe that our average person can put into place and start to have some successes, we'll come back and we'll share that with you. We're doing, and maybe some, not maybe, but even some look over our shoulder video training as we're putting together some of these marketing campaigns. Okay, now there's a couple things here. There's a binary part of the compensation plan, and most of you are familiar with the binary where you have only two sides. You've got a left side and you've got a right side. Now, to be qualified to earn in the binary, you need to personally enroll someone that falls on your left, personally enroll someone that also falls on your right. When you do that, then you're qualified for the binary. Keep in mind, no monthly auto ship, no monthly subscription, but it will. This could produce some huge incomes for you, and certainly when I show you the second part of the compensation. Now, I won't spend a lot of time on the binary because while it's exciting, it's not the big money. You can make on your own binary, you can make up to $12,000 a month. There are other binaries where you make maybe $25,000 a week or what have you, but that tends to be the biggest part of that company's compensation. The binary for BitClub Network is not the biggest part of the compensation. Okay, there also are some matching bonuses. Now, some of you are going to be connected with our team, and let me just tell you how I'm building out my binary. Okay, and some of you leaders, you might want to think about this as well. You big boys and big girls, I can't tell you what to do. What I'm doing, since you've got one on the left, you've got one on the right. Okay, so I'm going to have my left and my right, but then, at least for the foreseeable future, which could be the next 30, 60, 90 days, maybe even beyond, I'm going to build primarily through one leg, what I will call my power leg. Okay, and the reason I'm doing that is because I see the bigger picture. By building that way, I won't get some of my binary cycle pay right away. Okay, but what I will do is I will cause excitement within my binary and people getting excited, and the whole idea is for folks that happen to be in that power leg where you can start seeing one side of your binary starting to grow. You still need to sponsor at least one person that falls on that side, okay? But then you can start putting your building efforts towards the other side of your binary. So that helps you to cycle even quicker if one side is already starting to build on build because of somebody else's efforts. Okay. All right. So again, I'm not concerned about cycling early on. Okay. I want to have a whole bunch of sales in the binary on one side, and then in time I'll come back and I'll start to build out the other side. But for right now, I want to impact as many people that follow us and have followed us, some of you for years, as much as I possibly can. Okay? All right. Now, every time you have 20 cells on the left, every time you have 20 cells on the right, and let me tell you what a cell is. Okay? One unit in the $500 pool counts as one cell. Okay? A unit in the $1,000 pool counts as 2 cells. And then a unit in the $2,000 pool counts as 4 cells. All right? So if you had 20 cells on the left, however they got added up, even if it happened from spill in your binary, okay, and you have 20 cells on the right, you cycle, you get a $400 cycle paid to you in Bitcoin. There are no recapitalization requirements with that commission, okay? And then there is 2 generations of $50 bonuses. So your personal enroller would get 50 when you cycle. Their personal enroller would get 50 when they cycle. You can get 1 cycle a day, so that's $400 a day that you can earn from that times, let's say 30 days, that's about $12,000 a month from your binary. Unlimited amount of $50 matches you could receive. Okay, a lot of that's just going to be based on how many people you personally enroll and how often are they cycling. Okay, and that's another thing. I'm willing to forego some of my own cycles to help you. Not everyone, depends on, I don't, you're going to get back with the person who referred you and join with them. So I don't know that everybody on this webinar would be in that power leg, but a good number of you would be in that power leg. And then some of you are going to be developing your own power leg, especially some of you that already have a list of leaders and so on and so forth. Okay. Now let's get into the really big money. Here's the really big money, and this can get really big, really fast. All right, and so I'll give you a couple examples. All right, so now you have what we call Team 1, and this is a coded bonus structure, and the reason this was put into place is the top income earner that we are aware of in this industry that was doing over $2 million a month did it with a compensation plan that had coded bonuses. Coded bonuses can pay some huge bonus money, and that attracts the attention of builders, which builders are the ones that really help build out the business. Okay, it takes a lot of Joe and Susie averages, obviously, but builders tend to bring with them a lot of Joe and Susie averages. All right, I want you to go beyond just being average if you see yourself as Joe and Susie average. So follow us very intimately as we start to build out BCN. Here we go. All right, the first two people that you enroll make up your Team 1. All right, now let me tell you what this means. The first two people that you enroll won with the 99, and they purchase a unit. All right, so if you enroll 3 people that do the 99, the system's going to look at the first 2 that purchased a unit. Okay. All right, you're going to get a 15% bonus. So when they make a purchase of a unit or units, okay, you get a 15% commission paid to you in Bitcoin. That is not an automatic recapping. You can recap if you want to, but you don't have to. Paid to you in Bitcoin, you can convert that obviously into your country's currency. All right, 15%, 15%. Okay, now let me give you an example. I'm going to use a $10,000 example. I'm not saying you got to do $10,000. You know, that's a $500 unit. But I anticipate, just looking at businesses in the past where there was a daily pay model, we had a lot of folks that got started with $10,000 US dollars, but that should only happen, if a person has the resources, right? I'm using this for nice round numbers. All right, so in time, whether they started off there or whether they built up that participation in time, you got 15% or $1,500. Okay? Now, that's great, but the best part hasn't even started yet, because the best part is this. What do we know? What do we know of that person or those persons who collectively made $10,000 worth of initial purchases? We know they are paid every day for 1,000 days, and their fractional units earn every day. And when those fractional units are a full unit, that full unit earns every day for how long? 1,000 days. So what do we have here? We've got a built-in daily residual income. Okay, so 10,000. Let's say that today, and maybe this is the combination of purchases or what have you, but they've got 10,000 in pool participation between them. Could be one person, could be multiple people, okay? And today, 0.005 was the amount paid to every person based on their pool participation. And so that's $50. All right. I'm going to say US dollars, but it's paid in Bitcoin. You can do the math on that. Okay. Now let's assume in this example they really want to grow their pool participation, and so in this example they recap 100% or $50, and you would get 15% of that as a commission. All right, and that's going to be $750 for that day. Now you say, well, that's not a whole lot, $750. Well, whoa, that day. If that happened, and obviously just for example, if that happened for the month, $750 being $50 being recapped every day for a month, you're at $225 a month, and you got that residually with no auto ship, no monthly subscription. Okay. Now, if all of a sudden you referred a third, fourth, and fifth, I won't go through all of this because of time, although I could, because I can't go anywhere right now unless I want to get drenched. Once you refer your third, fourth, and fifth, you now get 20% from the purchases of your third, fourth, and fifth personal referrals. You're still getting 15% from the first two, but 20% from your third, fourth, and fifth. And this is key. When your third, fourth, and fifth refer their first two, making up their team one. Your third, fourth, and fifth refer their first two, making up their team one. They, third, fourth, and fifth, they get 15% of their team one's purchases. You get the difference between your 20 and their 15, or 5%. Now this is where this gets really, really interesting. The third, fourth, and fifth, you're getting 20%. So that same $10,000 in participation, you just made $2,000. In that same daily, you made 20% versus 15% if that came from your third, fourth, and fifth, okay? But what gets really interesting is that now when they refer their first two, that third, fourth, and fifth, refer their first two, that third, fourth, and fifth, refer their first two, you get 5% from the purchases of the first two. Remember, this is going to be recapping every single day, so that's daily residual income. But wait a minute, it doesn't stop there. Because when those first two of the third, fourth, and fifth, when those first two of the third, fourth, and fifth get their first two, you get 5% there. And when they get their first two, and their first two, and their first two, and their first two, Sharita, and their first two, Lancelot, and their first two, Mary, and Melvin, their first two, you get 5%. Let's go to your third team. The third team is comprised of your sixth, your seventh, and your eighth referrals. So now you bump up to 25%. That $10,000 in participation where you earn 15% from your first team, wonderful, 20% from your second team, fantastic. Now it's 25% from your third team, comprised of your sixth, seventh, and eighth personal referrals. Now you're starting to grow your commissions. You can start putting some of those commissions in your pocket. Obviously, you can put them all if you want to. You can start taking some of those commissions to add to the pools that you're in, or add to the units, because you'll be able to buy fractional units if you're part of that specific pool. All right? And so that allows you to add to that as you see fit, so that you can really grow that pool quicker, so that it gets to the point where just the where we want to be is that just the daily revenue coming from the pools with the amount that you can withdraw, that would be meaningful for your family. You'll have to determine what meaningful means for you. Meaningful might be it pays your electric bill. Meaningful might be it pays a car note. Meaningful might be it pays your rent or your mortgage. All right, you'll have to determine for you and your family what meaningful means. But the goal is to get your pool participation to a point where your daily revenue, the amount that you could withdraw, would be meaningful enough for you to take care of something that's meaningful. All right, 6th, 7th, and 8th, guess what? When they get their first Their first two, now you earn 10%. So from your 6th, 7th, and 8th, when they get their first two, you earn 10%. And 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 then when those 6th, 7th, and 8th get their 3rd, 4th, and 5th, you earn 5%. And that goes to infinity. So when your 6th, 7th, and 8th gets their 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and their 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and those people's 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and those people's 3rd, 4th, and 5th, you're picking up 5%. All right, so why am I on with a gentleman who's from the Philippines? I'm not personally enrolling him. He's not my personal enrollee. All right, his personal enrollee is in Australia. So why? He's saying, hey, can I, we got this large team, and we'd like to have a private webinar. Why would I do that other than being a really good guy? Okay, well, I don't have to personally enroll him. All right, he's in one of these teams, and his 1st and 2nd, or his 3rd, 4th, and 5th, or their 5th, 6th, and 7th, or what have you, we get a little something there. And so now it allows the builders to really unselfishly build, because they know that they're going to be impacted by this. So besides being great people anyway, they have a financial incentive. Okay? Team 4. I will give one example with Team 4, and we'll start wrapping it up. I'm going to optional Q&A. Team 4, look at this. Starts with your 9th. Starts with your 9th. Okay? Ultimately, I want to get everybody to the Team 4. It'll take some of you sooner. Some of you will get there sooner. Some of you will get there later. Some of you will get there the first day. Some of you may take a few months because you've got to learn some skill sets and building lists and so on and so forth. But let me show you the power of Team 4. Team 4. Now, anyone you personally enroll, your 9th on, you enroll 900, doesn't matter, 27.5% on their initial personal purchase, and then any ongoing recapping. Okay, from their first and from their first two, 12.5%. From their 3rd, 4th, and 5th, 7.5%. From their 6th, 7th, and 8th, 2.5%. And then their 6th, 7th, and 8th, and their 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and their first two, and their first two, and their 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and their 6th, 7th, and 8th. And it just keeps going on and on and on and on. And then there's even some more that goes beyond that. Let me give one example here. Let's use the same example. All right. Now, let's say that the people that you personally enroll in your 4th team, your 9th person, maybe your 10th person, 11th person, let's say all collectively right now, they've made purchases that total $10,000. You get 27.5%, $2,750. That might be one person. That might be 2 or 3 people. That might happen over time as people build up their participation in the various pools. But let's use the same example, 10,000 times 0.005. That's still 50, that's still the same. Let's say they recap right now. So they're recapping with $50, but now you're getting 0.275 or 27.5%. And this comes out to be $13.75 for the day. If we extrapolated that out, illustrative purposes only, you're talking $412.50. So let me tell you exactly, Louise, Troy, Queen, Frank, some of my builders out there, okay? What I did is I said, well, I think I can build a team in my 4th team that ultimately have $100,000 in pool participation. Well, let's say they're earning that and they're recapping a certain amount of that. And if that happens, all I have to do is add a 0 to this right here, and I'm at $4,100 a month residually. And I think in time that pool participation could be at $1 million, and I just add another 0. I'm at 41 grand a month residually just from same. And in time, and that's not even the level ups. that's not even the level ups. That's not even the level ups. I'm saying in time, man, I think I could have just from my personals in Team 4, I could have 2, 3, 4 million in pool participation. Wow. At 27.5%, and then the 12.5% level ups, and then the 7.5%. Ladies and gentlemen, I shared with some of our audience that follow us in e-commerce, I shared with them that I felt like that for the first time I had found an income opportunity that would be an 8-figure opportunity, which I still believe that to be true, with my Fulfillment by Amazon business. Outside of that, I hadn't seen anything in terms of building a network that I felt like could get me there until BitClub Network. And when you understand where the revenue's coming from for the daily earnings, coming from the actual mining of the Bitcoins, okay, and that's real revenue, not just affiliate swapping money here, okay, when you understand that there are already pools in place that are successful pools that tend to pay a 1-year contract, and we're the first, as far as I know, to come out with this pool concept linked with a networking engine that's paying 1,000 days. And there might be others that will come out, and I hope that there are, to be honest with you, okay? But it's always something special when you're with a company that's the first kind of creating that category in that space. If you go back and you do some research, you'll find that some of the biggest monies were made with that first company that really launched, you know, that industry. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, BitClub Network, payplan.com was your resource, so you can take a look at all of that. I do plan on cutting the videos this week so that everything that we've shared over now, it's been about 2 hours, we can share and break it down in modules. We know not everybody may have an attention span for a full 2 hours, although I'm never going to apologize for that because I want you to get the information. But, you know, when we break it down, then people, if they want to sit through full 2 hours, can sit through 2 hours, or they can break it down and go with modules. I do plan on having consistent, at least weekly webinars, live webinars, or something synergistic about doing a live webinar. So we'll do both. We'll have some recorded content and we'll have live webinars. Now, I want to ask something real quickly, and I don't have a poll for this, so I need your assistance here. The system looks like it's going to go live Wednesday. I currently have scheduled in the webinar system for us to do a live webinar on Thursday, which I will keep that in place. Does anyone want me to do what I've just done here? And I need to see a large response. Does anyone want me to do what I've done here before Thursday? If yes, put a Y or yes in your questions box. Do you want me to do what I've done here before Thursday? Now, I got to have more than a fifth. If it's just that, then I won't do it, okay? So if you want me to do it, then you need to put a yes in the questions box. Hey, Queen. Now they're starting to come in, okay. Okay. Okay, now they're starting. Okay, all right. All right, I was giving a saying, I could be working on the recorded content. All right, but I think we've got enough yeses there. Okay. What I am likely to do if the system does launch Wednesday, I'm hearing it can happen during the day. So I'm definitely likely to have a webinar Wednesday evening or Wednesday late afternoon. That's not necessarily a presentation, but where we kind of gather and make sure that people are getting you're unmuted, Queen. I can hear you in the back.
Sorry.
Okay, that's right. All right. So that we can, what we've done in previous ventures where we started a build and a company was just launching, is that very often we would come together as a team It wasn't a presentation, so people already knew kind of what was going on. And we would say, okay, links are out. I've distributed my links to my personal enrollees, and you would come and say, hey, I'm waiting for Joe Smith's link. And we would say, hey, Joe, if you're on the webinar, Martha is waiting for your link. Martha needs you to send her your link, Joe. Get your link out to Martha. So we will probably do that in the event that the system goes live on Wednesday, or whenever it may go live. So pay attention to your emails. All of you should have opted in to bcnwebinar.com. If you did not opt in to that list, we will not be sending out, let me say this again, I will not be sending out personal referral links to that list, because a lot of people that will be opting into that list are not my personals, okay? If you went to opt in to come to tonight's webinar, or maybe the webinars we did last week, then you're already opted in. You don't have to do this. If not, if you go to bcnwebinar.com, opt in with your best email address, and just pay attention so you know, because it could be an impromptu webinar. It could be, we might only have a couple hours notice. If I hear that it's going live Wednesday at 2 o'clock afternoon, okay, then I'm going to schedule a webinar later in the day on Wednesday, okay? So Wednesday would not be a presentation. Thursday would be a presentation. I think I've got enough yeses to do another presentation, either Monday or Tuesday. So do me a favor, for those of you that want me to do a presentation so that you can see it again and so that you can invite some guests before links go live, which would you rather? So either put an M for Monday or T for Tuesday. What would be your preference? An M for Monday or a T for Tuesday? Let me see, and we'll, okay. Come on, give me some feedback, guys. Give me some feedback. So far, it looks like the Tuesdays are winning. The Tuesdays are winning. The Tuesdays are winning. Tuesdays are winning. Tuesday won. It was very clear. Okay, all right. So I want you to plan then on Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'll change the dates. But the link will stay the same. bcnwebinar.com is where you can send your guests, and those of you that have already opted in, you don't have to worry about that because GoToWebinar is going to send you that. I just need to change that. And one last thing I will ask, I did a webinar this past Friday. We had a pretty good response. I did it 12 noon Eastern. And I primarily did that for our second, third shift in the U.S. where they couldn't get on a live webinar at 9 p.m. Eastern. And I did it for our international audience because a lot of our international folks, 9 p.m. Eastern, could be in the middle of the night. Or in some cases, they might be 10 or 12 hours ahead of us. We've got a lot, or 14 hours ahead of us. From my international folks, I don't know if you're here tonight or not, if I have a large cross-section of you. If you are international and you would like me to do something during the day this week, like a 12 Eastern, whatever that means in your part of the world, I'd need to see how many people would want me to do that. Now, if you are not going to come and you don't plan on inviting anyone, then don't say anything, okay? I just need to see what my time resources needs to be. So if you're international and you want me to do something for the international audience that's a better time for our international audience, then put a yes in your questions box. Let's see who I'm talking to. Okay. And Angela, what part of the world are you in, or what country are you wanting to appeal to? You might be in one part of the world, but you might have a following in another part of the world. What part of the world are you looking to appeal to? Okay, in the UK and in Africa. Okay, gotcha. I may have had some of my international folks that had to drop off Some of my international folks are not too far from the U.S. Angela, I don't want to do things Wednesday because we might launch on Wednesday. The only day would be Tuesday. I tell you what, darn, that's going to be a problem. Different link. I'd have to do a different link. Let me think that through. Angela, let me think that through, and if we decide to do something this week, we'll send that out. The challenge I have is I can't populate, if I want to keep the same link, which I like to keep the same link for this series of webinars, because we're going to do a Tuesday evening, and I had a lot more response for that. I can't do a Tuesday afternoon with the same link. I may have to populate another link, okay? And so what I may do in lieu of that, Angela, is maybe instead of doing the live webinar, again, I plan as early as tomorrow to start working on the modules. I'm basically going to use the same content, but we'll just, we'll go like 20, 30 minutes, and then, we'll stop, and then we'll come back to module 2 and pick up on module 3, so on and so forth. So we're going to be working on that this week, okay? All right. Thank you, Angela. I appreciate that. All right. Now, with that being said, we have completed all of our training. You guys have been absolutely amazing. Let's go and get into some optional Q&A. And still, we've got more than 2/3 of our original audience here, so I really appreciate that. I don't take that lightly. Remember, we've got a new fan page. I would love for all of you to go and like the fan page. And you might, I would have you to come back to this fan page, a few times each week and see some of the content that we're posting on the page so that you can start posting some of that same content. None of this content is ours, really. It's really, articles and things that we're seeing, maybe videos that we're seeing that we're posting. We're starting to build up a fan page. I started a little small advertising campaign this weekend, getting likes to the page, which ultimately will be able to market to those people that are not maybe have never even heard of us, never even heard of BitClub Network, so on and so forth. So feel free to follow it just to kind of see what we're doing from a Facebook perspective. I plan to do some aggressive marketing through Facebook, and we'll see how that works out. If it works out well, then we'll come back and we'll let you know what we're doing. I also plan to do a number of different other paid marketing, and we'll see what's working for us, and then whatever is working for us will come and let you know. But I'm going to head over there, see if there's any questions, and then we're going to come back to the questions here. Bear with me. Give me a moment. Bear with me. Don't know why that's coming in. Okay. I'm seeing more comments there than questions, so now let's jump over to the webinar panel. Hey, Quinn, can you assist me and see if there's some questions there? Because there's been a lot of comments with the yeses and the nos and things like that, so I'm going to have to, if you're around, can you assist me? I lost my questions box. Are you doing something else?
I was taking Emmy for a walk.
Okay, walk on, go on, give me a moment. I'll get it figured out.
Okay.
All right, hold on. Okay, if you asked a question earlier, you probably want to re-ask that question because there's been a lot of communication, and it may be difficult to find your question. Okay, so go on and ask your question again. Okay. Okay, great question. Somebody asked this question. Someone said, all right, what if a person is active in building their business, all right, but they don't have the resources to participate just yet in the pools, okay? Now, the $99 is very important because it does lock in your binary position, okay? Very important. Even if you're not qualified to earn from it, you want to lock that position in. All right. I was talking to a buddy of mine who is extremely focused on his current network. And what his concern was, very dear buddy of mine, his concern was that he did not want to lose focus. But I don't want him to lose focus. And I understand, you know, he's really having some great success, and he had a rough patch of it there for a while. And so now he's got some great successes, and he doesn't want to, you know, he believes in the message, but he didn't want to promote the message right now. And I said, look, lock in your spot because I know how I'm going to build. And because he was going to be a personal enrollee of mine, or is going to be a personal enrollee of mine, I'm going to make sure that he falls on my power leg. So lock in your spot, okay? So now what will happen is he will have one leg that will be growing, that he might not even look up and pay any attention for several weeks, even several months. When he finally pays attention, he should have a whole bunch of sales on that left-hand side, all right, or whatever that power leg happens to be. Let's assume it's the left-hand side. And then if he ever decides to promote it, then he can, for the most part, recruit one that falls on his left, all right, because he still has to personally enroll one on the left, and then enroll one on the right and begin to build that side if indeed he decides to build. And if not, if there's a lot of activity on one of those legs, he could just sell that spot to someone else who's willing to build and probably get a lot more than what it costs him to purchase that spot for, okay? Now, how does this work if you lock in your spot? Darn, you just don't have $500 for a unit right now. You don't have $1,000 for a unit right now. You don't have $2,000 for a unit, much less a unit at each. But you refer someone who does. Wait a minute. I need to back up because I got clarification on this the other day. Let me think this through. Hold on. What I got clarification on the other day is you do need to have at least one unit. So let's say $500 pool. Okay. So this is what I am going to say. If you know you're going to start building a referral network, come up with $500. Now, I know I always say, you know, what you can comfortably afford, come up with it. I've seen people do some incredible things for something they really wanted and what they really believed in, okay? So come up with it. Come up with it, okay? Now, let's say beyond that, so you're in the $500 pool, all right? And you refer someone that's in the $1,000 or the $2,000 pool. They have the resources to get the $1,000 or the $2,000. Now what happens, okay? So you're in the $500 pool. You refer someone, they have the resources to do the $1,000 or the $2,000 pool, maybe in addition to $500. What happens? What happens if you don't a participation in that pool, a unit in that pool, is you still get the same commission rate. It's the same, whether it's 15% from your first two, whether it's 20% from your third, fourth, and fifth, 25% from your fifth, sixth, and seventh. I'm sorry, sixth, seventh, and eighth. Whether it's 27.5% from your ninth on, the commission rate is the same. The difference is this: if you don't have participation in that pool, a full unit, then instead of you getting the actual commission, the commission is fully applied to your participation in that pool. So if someone made a $1,000 purchase for the $1,000 pool, you're not in the $1,000 pool, and they would have been on your second team where you get a 20% commission. Okay, so 20% of the 1,000 is 200, instead of you getting the $200 or the 200 in Bitcoin that you can convert to dollars, 200 would go to purchase a fractional unit in the $1,000 pool, and the same would go for the $2,000 pool if you didn't have participation there. Okay, so $99 locks you in the binary whether you have any purchases of the units or not. Doesn't qualify you to make money in the binary, but at least you have a potential asset in maybe having some growth in your binary there that could potentially generate revenue, maybe even daily revenue. Then you want to at least do $500 unit, so that as you build a referral network, you are able to get commissions. And then in those cases where someone is purchasing participation in a pool that you're not a part of, you don't get the commission in terms of Bitcoins that you can withdraw, but it will go and be applied to that particular pool and will start earning until it becomes a full unit. Once it's a full unit, so in this case a full unit would be $1,000, right? You got 200 in that pool. This 200, this fractional piece, is earning every single day until such time that it's a full unit, and that's when the $1,000 timer starts. Okay, 1,000 day, excuse me, timer starts. Okay, good, good, good. Do the Bitcoins retire after their first 1,000 days? Guys, when you're putting your questions in, would you do me a favor, make sure you put your name in too? Because some of you are showing up as me. I don't know what I did when I did a link, but some of you are in the asker was that telling me who the person is asking. It's saying Tila Silver Senior, so I don't know who really asked this question. Okay, what's going to happen is in 1,000 days. All right, doesn't matter which of these pools you're in. This happens for all of them. So you've got a $500 pool, you've got a $1,000 pool, you've got a $2,000 pool. So in 1,000 days, if you're in the $2,000 pool, that $2,000 participation, which is one unit, is going to retire in 1,000 days. But by the time that happens, you've got plenty of other units that have been accumulated, because you got 1,000 days. So what you're not going to see here, for those of you that have been part of some type of daily pay type of structure, you're not going to see a daily payment of, let's say, 0.15. That's not going to happen, because that's not what happens in the mining process. Okay, maybe 0.005, 0.007, 0.003, but not 0.15. Okay. At the same time, those of you that saw like 0.15, in 90 days, in most cases, your what they call points or credits, what have you, retired. Whereas here, while your daily earnings aren't going to be as high as it relates to a 0.15, maybe it's 0.003, 0.004, whatever it happens to be, it's going to happen over a period of 1,000 days. Okay, and so you're not going to have any, you're not going to see any decline in your number of units for 1,000 days. But by the time you get to 1,000 days, and you guys and gals are smart enough, you can kind of do some calculations. I'm sure the company doesn't want Excel spreadsheets flying around, and just want to make sure people are saying the right things and not saying stuff like passive and that kind of stuff. Okay, but if you do the math on that, ladies and gentlemen, even when 2,000 a full unit in that one, or 1,000 or 500, even when that retires, you got so many other units because of that 1,000 days. Okay. Brian is asking, when I'm sending out links to my personal list, how am I going to determine how those links are sent out? What I have said to my personal list is I've given them instructions to opt in into a specific list. all right, and then upon their opting into that particular list, then I'm going to let them know, hey, I've got my link, guys. And sure, there's going to be some folks that see that before others, and some folks are going to position themselves in the binary before others. I wouldn't worry about that, because I'm going to be very, very, very aggressive in my personal build. And not only that, but we also have other leaders. Some of those leaders are going to be in well, many of those leaders are going to be in the power leg, and they've got to put at least one on their left-hand side and one on their right. Some of them might even do what I'm doing. I'm not saying they are, but some of them might say, hey, I'm going to forego some of the binary commissions earlier on so that I can help grow this power leg, because I know back growing my power leg, I create more excitement, which is going to cause my overall business to really take off. When you understand particularly the level up, and if you happen to be a builder, all right, if you're a builder and you can personally enroll and you know, even bring some folks that will bring in teams and what have you, if you understand that and really get the level up part, then you'd understand why I'm building this power leg. And I'm not even focused right now on me getting binary money. I'm more focused on building a very strong power leg, so that as people start to build the other side of their leg, they're making money. And then they're just seeing the excitement. I have a buddy of mine. He's with a company in a binary, and he hasn't built it yet. He got an early position, and when he gets time, he's going to, you know, takes the time, he's going to build it. But when he ever gets there, he's got one leg so built out that when he starts, if he ever takes the time to build the other leg, I mean, he's going to make so much money, and he's really only exerting half the effort because he understood positioning. Okay? The $99 does not expire. James is asking about the $99. That is not purchasing participation in the pools, so the $99 is not going to earn. Okay, that is my understanding. Is there's going to be a lot of training about cryptocurrencies, and that's covering that training. Okay, is my understanding on what that is going for. There are no commissions paid on the 99. Okay. Someone said, to get into someone's power leg, do you have to sponsor someone in both spots? Well, you're going to have to, in order to earn from the binary, even if you happen to be in somebody's power leg, which means, you know, all of a sudden you go in your back office and you've got people on one leg that you didn't personally enroll and your personal enrollees didn't enroll, that kind of came from on high, if you will, all right, from a very active and aggressive you know, team from above, okay? You will still have to personally enroll one on your left and one on your right. So what that does, for instance, let's say I'm building my power leg, and let's say that somebody's in my power leg, okay? And let's say my power leg is on the left-hand side of my binary tree. I only have a left and a right, all right? I'm going to personally enroll my left, personally enroll my right, okay? The position that's on my right, I'm not going to really start to build underneath that yet. So that spot is not being occupied by any of you, as an example. Okay, so that's not going to have any negative impact for you. So let's say that my power leg is on my left-hand side, and so for the foreseeable future, anyone that I personally enroll, I'm going to be putting in that power leg on my left-hand side. So then I'm going to have other leaders that may even follow suit, all right? Or even if they don't, they still have to put one on the left, one on the right. And so by them having to put one on the left, assuming my power leg is my left side, then that also contributes to the growth of that left leg. And this example could be the right leg, but let's say it's the left leg, okay? All right, now the question is, to get people in your power leg, does he have to sponsor someone in both spots? You'll still have to sponsor one on the left, one on the right to start earning your cycles or start been qualified to earn cycles in the binary. That's why I'm going to start off with a position on my left, position on my right, okay? But I'll start building the position on my left for the foreseeable future. All right, once I see that that's kind of growing, that leg is growing without me, meaning there's other leaders now, there's other people now that's building out, their left or right, and they've got a sponsor on the left, what have you, and that's starting to happen even without me, then I'll feel comfortable. I want to keep that momentum going. Then I'll feel comfortable starting to work on my right leg. But then when I start working on my right leg, I'll have so many cells in my left leg that it'll be, now I just have to focus on 20 cells on my right cycle, another 20 cells on my right cycle, because I might have 2,000 cells. I might have 3, 4, 5,000 cells on my left before I ever even start on my right. But then when I start on my right, it's going to be like, every day or every couple days or what have you, cycle $400, $400, $400, $400, okay? But now think about this. What do you think happens for Joe Average, who maybe has never had a team, and maybe he hasn't started earning cycle pay yet, but he looks in his back office, she looks in her back office, and they see, man, that binary is growing. So my buddy has been on auto ship with his company in a binary for quite some time, and he's not using the product. I mean, I wish he would use the product, right? But he's not using the product so much as he knows I need to stay on auto ship because I get to lock in the binary volume on one side. It's not flushing. And at some point, he's either going to sell that position to somebody who is going to build it, or he's going to start to build it himself. Now, the great thing about our system is there is no monthly auto ship. There's no monthly subscription. So nobody's ever going anywhere. Why would you ever go anywhere? But the other thing that's great about our system is since people are earning daily, 1, 2, a portion of what they're earning goes back to recap, which gets them fractional units in the pool. When they get up to a full unit, that becomes another cell in the binary. If they get up to a full unit in the $500 pool, by the process of accumulating or growing their pool participation, that unit counts as a cell. Same thing with 1,000, that counts as 2 cells. Same thing as 2,000, that counts as 4 cells. So in time, for those of us that are building, we could certainly have daily binary pay of $400 a day. Okay. Is the company based in the U.S.? No, they're based out of Europe. The owners of the company are more computer folks. They don't speak very good English. Okay, they're computer programmers. They've been running. They've been doing Bitcoin mining for a couple of years. Bitcoin mining is not that old, as the whole industry is only about 5 years. I don't remember how you pronounce the name because it's not an English name. It's a European name. So in terms of, I don't know what's going to show when the site goes live, what will, what won't show. I can tell you they've not owned network marketing companies before. They're computer programmers, okay? And they've been very successful to that end. Now, as it relates to the U.S., it's not a U.S.-based company, all right? Obviously, they still want to make sure that they are in compliance with, the laws in the land and so on and so forth. But no, it's not a U.S.-based company, okay? All right. Someone asked, would it be a good strategy to have multiple units? And it looks like they're saying multiple units in the pools. By the way, there are no limits. There's some systems where you can have one position, but you couldn't enroll your spouse, or you couldn't enroll your adult child, or you couldn't enroll what have you. They're not limiting that here. Okay. So when they asked about multiple, I don't know if they were talking about hey, could I enroll my spouse or what have you? This is what I would say, okay? If you're going to enroll more than one position per household, so let's say husband enrolls spouse, or spouse and wife enrolls husband, or what have you, do it in such a way that your personal enroller still gets the benefit. All right, meaning you might be the enroller, but you're enrolling that position in your first team. So for instance, notice what I said. I'm going to build, I've got a left and right, okay? My right position is going to be a family member, okay? But I'm not going to start building just yet. Under that, I'm going to build on my left position, which is going to be really, this is really for my existing team, my existing following, and that whole leadership. That's to, as much as we possibly can, reward folks that have followed us and believed in us and what have you. And then they will also get fruits of my personal recruiting efforts, even with some of my marketing and things of that nature. Once I have that done, and of course that second position, that right position, that's a family member position, I'll get 15% on, all right, with purchases. But my sponsor gets what my sponsor's going to get, all right. And I happen to know that where I'm going to be positioned as it relates to my sponsor's teams and what have you. So my sponsor's going to get overrides there, which is so cool, because I want to kind of use that position as kind of more of like a test position that's just right now not sponsoring anybody and is just earning from the pools. But my sponsor is going to get, his commissioning that he should be getting. I get my 15%. He's going to be getting, the overrides. Then when I get to that point and start building that position, he's going to start getting level ups and all that other stuff. Okay? All right. The question also relates to multiple units in a pool. Yes, you can have multiple units in a pool. Let me give you an example. Maybe, let me give you that $10,000 example. Okay. All right. So you might have $500 in pool one. You might have $1,000 in the $1,000 pool. All right. That's $1,500. And let's say you had 4 units of the 2K pool. Right. So that brings you up to 8,000 there. So 8 and 1,009 and 500 is 95. And so if you wanted to do 10,000 as an example, you would probably do something like this: 2 units of the 500 pool, 1 unit of the 1,000, 4 units of the 2K pool. Now the reason ultimately, if you are working with larger capital, that if you've got the resources, you want to do more in the 2K pool, is because remember, what is going to be paid for your units are going to be the same across the board, meaning what you earn daily per your unit. All right. The difference here is going to be your recap, 30/70. So now, if someone had $1,000, they could do one $1,000 pool unit, or they could do 2 $500 units. What would the differences be? Okay. If you did 2 500 units, okay, and you didn't do the 1,000, what would happen is you would have a daily recap of 50/50. But I think when we start seeing the numbers, a $500 unit, if that's all we have, we probably are going to conclude, most of us, that our earnings aren't enough to take the 50% off for that to really amount to a whole lot. Now, of course, I could be wrong depending on maybe where in the world somebody lives, okay? But I think most of us, if we just have a $500 unit, are going to want to see that pool participation begin to grow before we start to take anything out. The great thing about it, though, is that since you don't have to worry about anything retiring in 90 days, you got a full 1,000, then you don't have to feel like, well, I have to let it grow to a certain amount before I start pulling money out. Because, I mean, it's not going to retire in 90 days, okay? Now, your advantage here would be, well, you get 50-50. If you decided to go with the one unit in the $1,000 pool, let's say you're working with $1,000 here, okay? You would have a 40-60, all right? You'd have a 40-60 in terms of your recap. Chances are you're going to have people that when they join you, not everybody's going to have $1,000, so they may do the 500 pool. If you've done the 1,000 and they do the 500, if you're not in that pool, you don't get to withdraw the commission, but the commission is going to be allocated towards participation in the $500 pool. So I would tend to say, if a person is working with $1,000 US, I would tend to say purchase one unit in the $1,000 pool. That's what I would tend to say. Because even if you have someone that comes and joins you in the $500 pool, you don't get the commissioning, but you do get participation now into that pool at whatever your commission rate is. So if your commission rate is at 15%, because they're in your team one, that's $75. That's going to be $75 towards the purchase of a full unit. So you've got a fractional unit and it starts earning, okay? You can have multiple units with the multiple pools, okay? Okay. Give me a moment, okay? We will be earning pickup. Ooh, somebody asked a really good question. I have to get a good answer. The question was, I lock in the 99. I don't have the money to get started to purchase a unit. I refer someone who has the resources to purchase a unit. I don't get the commissioning because I don't have at least the 500. Once I have the 500 to purchase a unit, will I start to pick up the earning thereafter? Not retroactive, but thereafter. That is a great question that I do not have a great answer to. So let me ask that question. Great question. That's a really good question. Okay, give me a moment. Let me see if I can copy that. Act right. Come on. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. Why is that not allowing me to? Okay, bear with me. I need to type that out. I thought I could just copy it. Great question. I need to get an answer to that. If a person doesn't have the wherewithal to purchase a unit but refers the person who asked me that, you know how to get in touch with me. I want you to hit me on Skype. That's where I normally talk to you. I want you to hit me on Skype so we can discuss that, okay? All right, my buddy Foy, refresh my memory. Do you earn on your downline's commission from their binary? All right, so the question is, will you earn as you're building your team Oops. As you're building your team, what you earn from your teammates, as you're building your team, do you earn from the binary? Remember, what happens with the binary is all the sales from your downline team go in one of your legs. So for instance, let's say that let's say you've got 200 legs, 200 sales, because you're building out your binary team, and on your left-hand side you've got 200 sales. Okay. Well, and let's say, like in my case, I'm going to have 200, maybe 1,000. I don't know if the number's going to be sales on one power leg before I even start to work on the other side. Okay. Then when I get to the other side, for every 20 sales that I do on the other side, there's going to be a cha-ching. All right, $400. Excuse me. So those sales start to grow on one side, and then you balance it on the other side by getting 20 sales, and cha-ching, you just make $400. Now, when you have people that you've personally enrolled that cycle, so maybe you didn't cycle, but one of your teammates cycled because they had their own left and right, all right, and they cycled. They make $400. You, as the enroller, you'll make a $50 cycle bonus, and your enroller would make a $50 cycle bonus. They made that modification. Originally, it was going to be $500 being paid to one person. It's still the same $500 budget for a cycle, only it now pays 3 people. The person who actually had the 20 on the left and 20 on the right, they get 400. That person's enroller gets 50. And then that person's enroller gets 50. So 2 generations of enrollers get the 50. And the reason that's important is because on the binary has a maximum cap of that $500 being paid. So by doing the 400 to the person that had the binary, and then the $50 of generational, there's no limit, especially if you build a very large team, a very large personal recruitment tree. There's no limit to the number of people that can cycle in a day, other than you can have, if you sponsor 300 people, you can have 300 people theoretically that cycle in a day. They probably all won't, but might you get a few people that cycle that day and you earn an extra $50? Sure. Okay. To me, the cycle pay is in my mind is secondary to, for me, the big picture. Well, really, the big picture for me, to be honest with you, the really, really, really big picture for me is that BCN coin. That when it comes out, whenever it comes out, is worth little to nothing. And I'm going to scoop up as much as I can, so that when it's worth 50 cents, $1, $5, $20, I'll liquidate from time to time, to kind of lock in some profits there. That's the big picture, okay? Now, the more immediate picture for me is the level up. And the way to increase my level up is to have some excitement happening in the binary. So I'm willing to forego today's binary commissions to create excitement in the binary, which will ultimately increase my level up income, which will then allow me to grow my pool participation much faster and more aggressively. Okay? Great questions, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to take 10 more minutes of questions. All right? Okay. Yeah, someone is asking, so once you get the referral link from the person that is going to be your enroller, okay, and you go and enroll, yes, you are going to have a referral link. What I do want to preface, hopefully if you've been following us for the last week and a half, we've been saying, make sure you set up your Bitcoin e-wallet, all right? And if you need that resource again, www.bitcoin.org. Now, a lot of people in the U.S. are using Coinbase. That's not the only one that you can use, all right, Coinbase.com. make sure you set up your Bitcoin e-wallet. If you're in the U.S., for instance, you'll have to verify it. It's pretty simple. It's almost like setting up a PayPal account. You verify your bank account. They make a couple deposits into your checking account. You got to go back and let them know that you got the deposits, and then tell them what the deposit amounts were. And once your checking account is verified, then you can actually start moving funds from your checking account right into your Coinbase. When you do that, let's say you moved over 1,500 US dollars as an example, it's going to convert that 1,500 US dollars into Bitcoin. Okay, you're going to make your purchase via Bitcoin. Also, be mindful that in getting funds into your e-wallet, and go to bitcoin.org, because there's more options there, and there might even be there's another one to consider too. I think it's local bitcoins.com. I think that's it. Some of you, depending on where you live in the world, you might actually be able to go offline and exchange your currency for Bitcoins offline. Some of you, particularly maybe in certain parts of Europe, that might be the case, okay? Or Canada, I think they've got some ATMs now in some of the larger cities in Canada. So go to localbitcoins.com, and I had somebody the other day, they were from a Caribbean island, and they were able to go on and see local places. Now, they didn't live in that same city, so they would have to get to that city, but they could go to one of the bigger cities in their country and actually locally convert their currency into Bitcoins, okay? All right, so make sure you're doing that. You want to make sure that you do your 99 plus your unit participations, your pool participations, okay? Excuse me. I would also include some cushion, because Bitcoin does fluctuate. The price of Bitcoin fluctuates. When I first bought some Bitcoin a couple of weeks ago, it was like Bitcoin was going about 518, I think it was between 515 and 518 a coin, US dollars. Okay. We saw it come down to about 473. It's back up in the 480s now, or 490s, something like that. Okay. But it lost a little value. No big deal. It's going to oscillate up and down and up. Not a big deal. Okay. But you do want to consider having some cushion. All right. I'd say at least, if you have it, another $100 worth of cushion. Right. And if you don't need to use it, then great. For some of you that maybe made a purchase of Bitcoin, or converted from Bitcoin, which was 470, well, you look in your e-wallet and your value has appreciated, because now it's at 480 and some change, 490, or whatever the number happens to be. Okay. Somebody asked, with $1,000, wouldn't that be 2 units? Well, if you did $1,000, you could do. What happens is you do $1,000. Okay, if you're in the pool, you're still buying 1 unit. As I understand it, 1 unit of the $1,000 pool. Okay. I don't know if the company looks at that as 2 units. You know, just your outlay was $1,000. So I'm saying 1 unit in the 500. If you're buying into the $1,000 pool, that's you got a full unit there. Robert, it could be that that's looked at by the company as 2 units. I don't know, but I appreciate you putting that there. So let me just clarify that from my end for right now. Okay. All right, we got 4 more minutes. What if you don't want to build it? Don't build it. You don't have to. There is no requirement to build it. Okay? If you don't want to tell anybody, if you don't want to promote it, if you're like my buddy, who's got another enterprise and he's got a large team and he wants to stay 100% focused on that, which I truly understand and I thoroughly respect. So if he's not looking to build, all right, that might not be your case. Maybe you don't want to have to worry about recruiting. You don't want to have to worry about a list or whatever. You want to get daily earnings and know that it's coming from real revenue. Well, that's fine. And nobody on this side and the company is never going to force you to have to build if that's not what you want to. However, having said that, for those that do want to build, we want to make as much training, as much resources available to help them in their quest to build if that's what they want to do. Okay? And I will tell you this, come to the end of our webinars, we'll never treat you like a second-class citizen. If you'll notice, we did 90 minutes of content where we didn't talk about the building part. We did talk about the pools. And then the building part came as an optional part, okay? So even our presentation is geared around people understanding the pools, so they participate in the pools. And then, I'll be honest with you, you know, many of us, a lot of us, maybe most of us that came to tonight's webinar have been a part of some type of daily pay before, okay? And maybe something happened. And so my thing is I want us to go into any participation with BitClub Network, however small or however large, with a more thorough understanding of why we believe it has legs. Okay? Okay? My son is coming to take me home. All right? Just have someone else. Someone is saying that they're concerned about a government trying to shut things down and take control. Well, so I don't know what are you talking about specifically? No government is going to shut down or take control of Bitcoin because Bitcoin itself is decentralized. Okay. Now, if they're talking about as it relates to BitClub Network, son, I'm still doing a webinar, so could you do that on the outside, please? Thank you. You're going to take the bag. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. As it relates to any government, you know, with interference as it relates to BitClub Network, well, you know, first off, the country that probably has the heaviest hand when it comes to regulation is the U.S. Okay, and I think most of us probably know that if we've been in the industry. So this is not a U.S.-based company, and that doesn't mean that you can just run roughshod because you're not a U.S.-based company, okay? However, what it does mean is that if it's not a U.S.-based company, the U.S., it's not as easy for them just to come and run roughshod. And normally when they run roughshod, there's at least been some reasoning behind that, okay? So for instance, you know, it's not a U.S.-based company. Now, if the U.S. wanted to come to the company and say, hey, let's see what you're doing, well, if they're doing things right, and if the money is coming from the mines, which the daily rewards, if the daily payout is coming from the mining operation, which is where it should be coming from, right? The daily rewards should not be coming from did new people join and then they took a portion of that to pay the rewards, okay? Now, new people can join, they can purchase participation in the mining pools, and they can pay commissions on that. But if they're taking new people's money to say, oh, this was the daily earnings based on that new people's money, then that's going to be a problem, okay? And there's no reason for them to do that. There's no reason for them to do that. Now, so, you know, I can't ever say that there won't be any type of regulatory scrutiny, okay? What I can say is when the potential rewards are great, don't be afraid to take the limited risk. And if a person is not willing to take that risk, you know, all I can do is lay out the information so that people can make the best decision for them. There's going to be some folks that's not going to be a part because they've seen some other things that didn't work that were in totally different industries, and they have every right to make that decision. And I understand that decision, you know, but I think there are, if they do things right, okay, if they execute on what I've been told is happening, and our regulatory agency wants to take a look and they say, oh, it's coming from real revenue. Now, there might be something on the MLM side that has nothing to do with that. That, you know, maybe some country will look at and say, hey, you got to change how you do this on an MLM structure, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's a stoppage of business. Okay, oftentimes that's kind of routine. Even in the U.S., you'll have companies where maybe a state doesn't like a portion of a compensation plan or what have you, and maybe some modifications are done, you know, for citizens or for people in that state, or maybe there's modifications for people in a particular country if there's a country that doesn't like this or that. But here's the other thing you got to keep in mind too. You're dealing in, for the most part, an anonymous world. And that doesn't mean that you can go and do criminal stuff, because, you know, obviously if there's criminal stuff going on, any government has every right, if their citizens are being messed around, you know, criminally, they've got every right to go in and protect their citizens. But again, what I would say to that person who says, I don't know if I want to do this because I'm just afraid that listen, if all we do is fear, we don't get involved in opportunity because we're afraid that things are going to get shut down, when you have gotten a good understanding of what should be going on behind the scenes, I don't know how we'll ever be successful. So, you know, with that being said, I don't know if that's what they want to hear, but that's the answer I would give them. Good. Aubrey said he's used local Bitcoins for transaction. Brian says, I can't imagine not telling people over time. Brian, I think it's the overtime part. I think there's going to be an element of our following that's going to be reserved, you know, early on particularly. You know, this sounds good. I want it to work, but, you know, I don't want it to be a rehash or a repeat of maybe something else that I've seen. That's going to be where some people are, okay? And quite frankly, and I'll end with this, when this first came across my desk and I saw the commissions and what have you, I really thought there's no way. But I did the study. I saw other minds. That was really key for me. I saw other minds, especially CEX.io. I go to CEX.io every day. I look at what they did the previous day, where they were the previous day and where they are that day. And I see, my gosh, today they mined 873 Bitcoins, and Bitcoins are going for $500. And I multiply that out, and I say, my gosh, that's over 400,000 in US dollar revenue in Bitcoins today. And then I look at those companies that had a daily pay revenue share model, and I ask myself, were those companies ever, now that we know, you know, while we were involved in some of those, we had no idea, okay? Were those companies ever generating in outside of affiliates joining income? Let's call it retail sales. Were they ever generating $400,000 a day? And I could go down the list, starting with a company that started with Z. No, they weren't earning $400,000. Now, I thought they were when I was promoting it. Some of you thought, I didn't know what the numbers were, okay? So I go by this adage. When the potential rewards are great, don't be afraid to take the limited risk. If you look at the people that win in this industry, if you look at people that win in general, those are the folks that are willing to take calculated. They don't just go and just throw caution to the wind, but they take calculated risk. And that's what we've attempted to do with these first 3 webinars. I think we did our first webinar last Thursday night, is to give you enough information where it wasn't hype, it wasn't just a lot of rah-rah. You might get excited, and I hope you do get excited, but excitement based on, man, if they do what they say they're going to do, man, this should be here, and we should make a lot of money together, okay? If you have any additional questions, please go over to my new fan page. I still have my other one, but go over to the new fan page specifically to deal with BitClub Network or Bitcoin questions, what have you. Thank you, Aubrey. Aubrey is saying if you go to CoinDesk, which is a great resource. Some of my screenshots for this webinar came from CoinDesk, by the way. I would opt in there because they send out some great articles. Facebook.com/BitClub Network Pro, Facebook.com/BitClub Network Pro. Based on what you guys said to me, this coming Tuesday night at 9 p.m., we will do another webinar at bcnwebinar.com. I'll change the data tomorrow, so you'll be able to get your link out, get that link out to invite your referrals. Wednesday, plan on some type of impromptu webinar, assuming that the system goes live on Wednesday evening. Thursday night, we'll be back with another presentation, and sometime during the week, I'll start knocking out some recorded content. I may not have it on a site this week, but I'll at least be able to get out links. I probably will not post that on YouTube. I probably won't do that on YouTube. I might do that on another site like Vimeo or something like that. But I'll get you however many links there are. Once we've completed those, I'll get those to you until such time that we get time to kind of put it in a nice, concise website that you can then start to share with your audience. With that being said, we love each and every one of you. If you need to get in touch with me, most of you know how to do that, either Facebook or Skype or what have you. We love each and every one of you. Let's change the world together, starting with yours. Good night, everyone.